Greetings and salutations, Sifters. It's GameFace, episode 387 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of Sifted, and also the co-host of this awesome video game podcast, who is also hosted by Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
Who is also hosted.
Which is also hosted.
GameFace has become sentient.
It's personified,
you didn't tell me that.
I just figured it out. How are you doing?
All right.
Yeah? How's your week been?
Pretty good. I don't know. Nothing happened.
Nothing major happened this week?
I saw The Fall Guy. That's about it.
Oh, was it good?
It was pretty good.
Was it?
Wasn't bad.
I'm surprised to hear that. I did not think it was going to be good.
No, I've never heard anything bad about it.
Oh, really?
It's just, it didn't perform as well as they hoped.
I go to movies so infrequently now, Matt, that I don't even really check reviews on movies anymore until they're, like, on streaming. Like, I don't even really keep up, like, big stuff that I'm interested in.
Well, good news. Madam Web hit Netflix today, so... You want to see the worst ADR I have ever seen in a film? I think they added a whole subplot to that movie in ADR.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't think that there's a whole thing of her going to Peru and a whole and this subplot with what the bad guy is doing that I think was completely added by recorded dialogue later.
Oh.
Because I don't think they could get anybody to reshoot anything because of everyone's schedules. Mm-hmm. So I think they just Frankensteined it together out of like additional dialogue. Oh, because there's all these shots of people. There's all these scenes where people are like talking, and you can their faces are like covered by a random shadow, or like their back is, or like you can just see their mouth isn't moving.
Yeah,
like it's more obvious in this than any other movie I've ever seen.
As somebody who edits video a lot, like these days, I don't know how you pull that off. It's so hard to chop stuff together and make it sound natural. It's very difficult.
They didn't pull it off.
I guess that's the point. One thing I should mention too, I think was it last week or the week before, someone said that Godzilla was going to be on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. It's not. That was only in Japan. There's some kind of licensing issue in America where there's only allowed to be like one Godzilla movie per year or something.
Oh, Toho has some weird rules about things. Yeah, that might be something.
And so they're saying now that movie is not going to be streaming in America until 2025.
That's a mistake.
That sucks. It really sucks.
Because if you're going to have to pick one or the other, you definitely pick that one over Godzilla v. Kong.
Right. Yeah. But you know what? Which one did better in the theaters?
Barely.
Right. With a massive marketing budget at that.
And a bigger budget in general, like as opposed to $10 million.
Yeah.
Is a lesson there, but we're not going to learn it.
Yep.
Also, I didn't see Godzilla X Kong because I have things to do.
Yeah. You have a life.
And but I didn't see the more clips coming up because it's hitting. I think it's hitting digital rental this week or something. I had not seen the clip where Kong picks up the baby Kong and uses him as nunchucks to beat off like 14 other ape monsters.
And not in the
No, not
Let's clarify.
Yeah, like not in the Archie Comics way. But like he just beats the hell out of all these other gorillas using a child as a club. And I'm like, what is this movie?
That's insane.
I don't get it. Also, like, there is no way in hell you're telling me that the big bad guy, the most dangerous foe they've ever fought is an orangutan that's like half the size of Kong. Like, Godzilla would bite his head off and go home. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, he's got a really sharp whip. I'm just like, oh, so what? Like, what the hell is these movies?
That's why I don't go see him anymore.
The next one is apparently being written by the guy that wrote Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't even know what that's going to be like.
I don't either.
Because
that's really hard to fathom.
He's a really good writer, and I'm like, why would you take this job? What do you see in here?
Maybe he's just got a gap in his schedule, and he's like, I got to fill it with something.
Look, I'm not a hater on the goofy Godzilla movies. Mm-hmm. I love the Showa series, the dumb shit where they just become like pro wrestling basically. Yeah. But the legendary movies are just so bad. They're so boring. They're boring.
It's patchy. Like, there's been a couple that entertained me, and in some of them I felt like were just a waste of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And part of my thing is just like, I think King Kong is a boring monster compared to like the Toho characters. Like, you've got a giant radioactive lizard that shoots fire out of his mouth. And on the other hand, you've got a big gorilla. Like what?
I love.
Like they had to give him a bionic arm in this one just to give him some like a gimmick. Like it was like when they put like a like an extra mask on Kane or something. It was like, I don't know. Like
King Kong was one of the first movies that made me cry. The first one, like the OG one. And then E.T. was like the second one, I think.
E.T. I didn't like.
Oh, really? When I was a kid, I was just destroyed by E.T.
No, I hate it. I didn't like.
Really?
I didn't like E.T. I didn't like the actual character of E.T.
I don't blame you there.
I thought he was a psychic vampire. Like I thought. Now that might just be because I was a kid. I was like, well, I read all my dad's weird little sci-fi horror movie books, and so I knew what Life Force was at a probably too young age. But like the fact that he got drunk and the kid got drunk and then he started to die and the kid started to die, I'm like, what is going on? Like I was 6 when that came out. I'm like 6. For whatever reason, my 6-year-old brain was like, he's a monster. Like that's
right.
Why is he doing that to the kid? And I had no affection for AT&T.
I remember calling my dad to come pick me up from the theater, and I was bawling. I could hardly talk to him after E.T. I was like, Dad, come get me. He's like, what the hell's wrong? And I'm like, oh, E.T. He's like, oh, God. You're crying over a movie.
Wow. Fuck that plant monster weirdo.
Anyway, welcome to GameFace, episode 387. I hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are having a great week so far, full of awesome video games. Let's check in with you guys and see what y'all are saying in the chat. And thanks some of you guys for Twitch Prime if you've been hooking it up. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. Looks like we hit level 1 of the Hype Train. Hype Train's kind of lost its hype, Matt. Have you noticed?
Yeah. They should upgrade that to Diesel.
Yeah, we haven't hit level 4 in a really long time. Squishy Muffin says, was listening to last week's episode today and really want to know if Matt has played and likes Subnautical in relation to Endless Ocean. Yes, he loves Subnautical.
Yeah, I like Subnautical.
We've covered it here on GameFace. I
don't find it to be a very useful replacement or comparison to Endless Ocean because they're not real fish. It's alien stuff, and that doesn't hold the same. Subnautica to me more is an interesting survival game that becomes a horror game the further down you go.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but it's not the same enjoyment I get out of the fish scanning games because they're not real animals.
Okay. The Retro Modern Gamer says, time to get a VPN, Shane. And he's saying that so that I can watch Godzilla here in America, even though it's only available to people in Japan. You can also
just get the Blu-ray.
Right.
I'm going to just buy the 4K.
How much is our Blu-rays these days?
Well, depends. Like it's probably like 25 to 30 for a Blu-ray, probably 40 for a 4K Ultra HD thing.
Cinetyke, thank you for Twitch Prime. It is GameFace time.
I still get Blu-rays of things I actually like. I just got all the steel books of the Star Wars Disney Plus shows and the 4K UHD of The Crow. The original Crow.
Yeah.
Which was a weird thing because my friend, one of my other friends wanted it, and he said, "Did you get that today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "I ordered it on Amazon, and they canceled my order because there was low stock." And I'm like, "Oh, wow. When did you order it?" He's like, "I ordered it the day it went up." And I said, "That's funny because I ordered it 4 days ago when you put up the review that said the disc was good." So Amazon makes no sense in how they prioritize orders. Rosencrantz,
thank you for subscribing for 50 months. That's incredible, man. Thank you. A 37-month streak. Thanks, man. We appreciate it. What else we got in here before we get going? I think that's it for right now. Before we get going, I do want to say, first of all, thanks to everybody showing up live to watch the stream right here at twitch.tv/SIFTD Games. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, so tune in if you can. Also, if you can, please help us. We are supported pretty much 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. I do want to say this. I put a call out for new patrons last week, and it worked. So thank you to anyone who listened to the show and listened to my plea for help and went and signed up on our Patreon. We really appreciate it. Please keep it going. We are still way below where we were in our Patreon years ago, so we still have a lot of catching up to do. COVID really just crushed us, Matt. And you guys can do this too if you go and look at the site. You can go and look on the show page for Pactor Factor or GameFace, and it's an endless scroll that goes all the way from 387 all the way down to episode 1. And Matt, you can see the line where COVID hit, where we've talked about it the first time in a show, and in the show it says surviving gaming during a pandemic or whatever. At that line, we lost half of our users on SIFTD.net, and then from then on, it's just been a slow dwindle. COVID crushed us. I don't know if it happened to everybody else but it really hurt us big time. We've been struggling.
Constricted probably their excess spending and never came back,
I guess. We've been struggling to get back to that ever since. So we appreciate everybody, again, who goes to patreon.com/SIFTD to help us. Again, if you don't have any money, you can still help us with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, the directions to do that are down below. We really, really appreciate it. We can't keep doing this show if we don't have money. That's just the bottom line. So if you love GameFace, you want to see GameFace keep going, please support us in some way. Even if you don't have money, you can help us with Twitch Prime. You can just review the show. You can like the show. You can share the show. Do all the YouTube stuff. Hit the bell to make sure you're notified when an episode goes live. All that stuff. All of it helps. Review the show on podcast services. All of it helps. So we appreciate anything you guys can do. It is really appreciated because we realize that you guys are basically just donating to us to make sure the show keeps going. So thank you very much.
And Black Sierra MPG is not a bot. I've known her for literally decades online. So... that's a real person.
Wait, someone's asking if Mighty Pony Girl is a bot?
Yeah.
It's definitely not a bot. We've had combos
No
with
bot
her.
knows your music.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, we had combos with her before. I don't know why you would have flagged her as that. Anyway, Shelma, thank you for Twitch Prime. We appreciate it.
Mazarin says thanks for the heads up on Indica.
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping some of you guys went and played it.
Well, it's funny. I bought it after we talked about it, and when I bought it, it was the picture on Steam was a bright yellow rectangle with Indica in the middle of it. And this week I noticed they changed it, so now it's a bunch of the nuns laughing hysterically at her, and she's looking sad in the foreground.
That's much better.
So it's much more representative
of the game. Yeah. And by the way, people were asking when we covered that game here on GameFace when it was coming out for consoles. We just got that announcement yesterday. It's coming May 29th to consoles. So if you don't have a PC and you're waiting to maybe give it a play on your favorite console, that'll happen before the end of this month. Contano, thank you for Twitch Prime as well. That's awesome. We appreciate it. I think that's it. Here's the thing. We have a big show today. Not a lot of big games. That's going to start next week. The next couple episodes are going to have bangers. In fact, I'm getting review code for Hellblade 2 like today or tomorrow. So we will absolutely have our full review of Hellblade 2 next Tuesday here on GameFace. And I think the game comes out that day or the day after. So it'll be one of those cases where we will have our opinions to you guys before you have to decide to pull the trigger.
Well, you will.
Right. Yeah, you won't. Yeah, I only get one code, unfortunately.
If it comes out Tuesday, I can play it the night before.
Which also, by the way, it sounds like the game isn't all that long. You might actually be able to get pretty far.
I don't have that kind of attention span anymore.
Yeah. Apparently it's only like 8 or 9 hours, so we'll see. But anyway,
I can finish an 8-hour game the night before, or I can be awake for the show. Pick one.
Good point. So anyway, we will have our review, or at least my review, of Hellblade 2 in next week's episode around the time it's becoming available. However, I'm guessing most of you people are probably like, you know what? I'm just going to subscribe to Game Pass for a month and play Hellblade for $15 or $16. That's my guess. But anyway, our review of that game will be in next week's episode, so look forward to that. But we have a great episode for you guys today, and it is loaded. We got tons of housekeeping, all kinds of big housekeeping stories are breaking. We got 3 reviews in today's show, and also I would like to add that I think our New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week this week is going to be something you guys want to pay attention to. It's something that you guys have been asking for and hasn't been delivered, and somebody you wouldn't expect is going to deliver it for you. So anyway, look forward to that a little later in the show. First, though, let's get on with our housekeeping. The first big story comes from this morning. It really does seem, Matt, like a lot of the news breaks on Mondays or Tuesdays, which is great for our show because we're able to jump on a lot of big topics like right away that a lot of other shows aren't able to do. And today the big news was this morning or overnight, PlayStation released its financial results for the last fiscal year. And unfortunately, Matt, they were not pretty. A couple exceptions in there. We'll talk about those. But the hardware numbers are not pretty. So essentially, PlayStation 5 fell 4 million units short of its goal for this fiscal year. They wanted 25 million units. They sold 21 million units, which is a pretty big miss. You don't see misses that big typically. What do you think about that, Matt?
Nobody has any fucking money.
It is now behind PS4 significantly.
People had more money when PS4 was out.
Yeah.
Nobody has money to throw $500 at a video game system right now.
Why does nobody have money?
Because capitalism is raging out of control and inflation has gone crazy. Price gouging is insane at the grocery store. Like my normal grocery haul that used to cost $90 is $190 now. who has the fucking money to throw $500,000 at a PlayStation 5?
But I mean, we can go back a couple years where inflation was awful. Like, we're actually fortunate in America.
Well, inflation is under control right now, but the prices haven't readjusted.
And I don't think they ever will.
Probably
because
not.
what happens is when these corporations jack up the prices, they never go back.
Well, they need to regulate the distribution gouging, which is what's happening in the food market.
I mean, Kroger is record profits every quarter.
I mean, interest rates on leveraging interest rates on housing is crazy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like a house, I think people bought a house in like 2019, and they got whatever the interest rate was for this, and now they're selling the house, and like so their expenses for the house with mortgage and insurance and etc. every month was something like $1,700. And now the house they paid like $275,000. This is clearly not in California, but $275,000.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and now they're selling it for like $350,000. And now, like, so they were paying $1,700 a month in mortgage and insurance and general and property tax and house expenses, basically. Mm-hmm. And the new people who are buying the house, their bill monthly is going to be $4,500. That's for the same house for barely an increase in worth, but what's being like their mortgage leverage is more like $3,000 a month instead of the $1,400 that these original people had, and that's across the board. Yeah. Like, people are using all their money to survive; they're not using it for luxury items, and the PlayStation 5 is as luxury item as you get. I will say this: Nintendo better think long and hard about what they price the Switch 2 at, because that's going to be a problem there too.
I don't think it'll get to 500. But
I better not.
Yeah.
No. But they might be thinking about 400, and I don't know how well that's going to fly in this current market unless something really changes between now and like next March.
Yeah, with any luck, interest rates, hopefully before the end of the year, the Fed will lower the interest rates because inflation has basically gone back to where it was. Right, the problem is that the corporations are gouging.
Corporations haven't gone back. Like, the regulation needs to happen, and that's not going to happen with the current state of Congress and the House of Representatives being full of cult member dipshits who won't let any legislation through and will just apparently constantly want to play revolving door with the Speaker of the House position. And we're getting pretty deep into the CNN weeds here, but it's because that is why people don't have the money to spend things on. And I very, very, very strongly believe that is why they are falling short of their targets, is people do not have the money to spend $500,000 on a video game system right now.
Yeah, I mean, they fell really short. And I'll say this, when they announced that $25 million, I think I even said this on GameFace, that was asinine. Like, there's no way they're going to sell $25 million. And they did it. And I think I even said 20, so they actually maybe did a little better than I thought. That was an ambitious goal is what I'm getting at, and they didn't hit it. But they missed it by a good bit. So.
I think if things were more like they were 10 years ago, they probably would have hit it. But maybe Sony is not paying very close attention to the economic situation overseas.
I mean, there's other elements to it, too. You know, PlayStation hasn't released a bunch of exclusives for its console.
Yeah, but if you haven't bought a PlayStation yet, that doesn't matter.
You're right. It doesn't matter because there's exclusives waiting for you to play. Exclusives. Yeah, they're sitting there waiting for you.
It is 100% nobody has money. That's it. Sony maybe is misgauging the economy and the disposable income of general people by setting that target, that ambitious target. But at the same time, you got to do that at the shareholder meeting because the line's got to go up. So, like, I don't know if they really had a way out here that wasn't going to look either they look under ambitious for saying they only going to want to sell 20 million consoles, or they undershot their target by saying they wanted this ambitious 25 million target. And probably the right call was to do what they did, was to say 25 million, more in line with sort of the infinite growth myth and with how PlayStation 4 performed, and then try to explain the discrepancy later and maybe hope that you don't have a discrepancy when the time comes to report the numbers, but they did. So I think that's what's happening. Like,
I think that's definitely part of it. But I think there's other elements at play as well. I think it all ties together to cause the shortages. The other thing, too, is the expectations that the market would continue climbing from where it was during the pandemic, where it exploded, because everyone was trapped inside. So a lot of corporations set their goals higher, assuming that sales deluge was going to keep happening from COVID, and it hasn't. But
it might have.
People went back outside.
But it might have if everybody didn't suddenly have to spend double what they normally spend on food.
I'm just saying there's a bunch of stuff that's feeding into it. But the bottom line is PlayStation 5 is not selling as well as PlayStation 4. Losing those 4 million units this quarter or this fiscal year, going to be hard to make up, I believe. I don't know where you make that up at some point, unless you have some game that everybody is absolutely has to have.
How do you just point to the Sony Pictures department and look how much they blew on Madam Web and what they're about to lose on Craven. We look pretty good by comparison.
Yeah. But I do think there's unrealistic expectations based upon the sales spike that happened during COVID. And I think it's unrealistic to expect that would keep happening.
I don't think that's really where it's coming from. I think it's unrealistic expectations of the infinite growth myth of capitalism that is taking hold in a strong way, because certain industries are getting away with that and other industries cannot get away with that. And the tech industry is one of the ones that cannot get away with that, especially in the terms of game consoles. I think the vast majority of this is just, if you don't already have a PlayStation 5, you probably can't afford to buy a PlayStation 5, and the prices aren't coming down. Like, there's no price cuts, there's no sales, there's no deals, there's no good time to buy a PlayStation 5 if you don't want to pay full retail, which is also new this generation.
There's no console price cuts at all.
There's not even, like, Memorial Day sales. Or like, there's never a good deal. The good deals involve spending more because you get a bundle that maybe gets you, like, $30 off. Like, it's not...
Or you get a free game packed in with it.
You never get a free game anymore.
I mean, they do. They still do that.
I mean, I guess they stuck the code for Horizon Forbidden West.
They'll do it and charge the same price. Yeah. I mean, it's no skin off their ass to give you a
actually the Horizon bundle cost more.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, the Horizon bundle costs an extra $60.
Really? They made you pay for
you don't get a free game.
Then why would they do the bundle? There's no point.
I don't know.
You could just buy your PS5 and then choose the game you want to buy.
Absolutely.
Are you sure?
100%. I bought one last year.
Really?
And it was more than just buying a regular one.
That's so dumb. That makes no sense at all.
That's how it's been forever for the last 2 generations. You don't get a break.
No, you do. Yeah.
No,
Pachter talks about this all the time. They've asked me
Pachter doesn't know what he's talking about then, because the bundles with the games included cost more. They always cost more.
I don't remember them ever costing more.
Neither did I before last generation, but they started doing that. The only time I can remember, the last time I bought a system that had a bundled game that didn't cost more than the baseline system was the Wii U, when they did that Splatoon Smash Brothers pack-in. And that was a special sale. That was a Black Friday sale, so that was probably why I bought that then.
Yeah.
But no, 100% the Horizon Forbidden West PlayStation 5, you were paying for the extra game in there. Maybe it was the $10 you didn't pay for the normal $70 price point. I don't know.
Matt, do you think that all these layoffs that we've been kind of confused why there have been
$550 for Spider-Man 2 bundle? Right there.
PS5 is $550.
PS5 is $500.
It's $550.
It's $550 if you buy it with Spider-Man 2 included.
Yeah.
You pay for the game, but I mean, you're not paying $70 for the game. I guess you're
getting a slight cut, which that's not going to motivate anyone to buy it. $20 saved is not going to get it done.
No.
Yeah. I'm wondering too, Matt, we're all kind of flummoxed and wondering why all these layoffs were happening, because the numbers weren't climbing, but they were pretty much flat, and the industry still seemed to be doing well. But do you think that the publishers were privy to these PlayStation 5 sales? Like, they knew the PlayStation 5 was selling poorly and was not going to hit anywhere near its goal, and they were like, look, we're just preemptively going to start making some moves here because things are not looking good.
No.
Yeah, it is very rare for platform holders to share that
information. They would not have shared that.
Also,
it's not selling poorly. 20 million is a lot of units. It just fell short of their ridiculous goal that they arbitrarily set without actually thinking about what the realism of that was. And you're not selling 20 million copies of a game. You're selling 5 million copies of a game, and you can still do that to the install base that exists on the PS5. The problem, and the reason a lot of the layoffs are happening, is because the shareholders would rather see the stock go up 2% from all the layoffs, adding investor confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it is.
I know that's what they call it.
That's why they do it. They lay off 1,000 people, the stock goes up 2%, and all the shareholders are like, good business, well done. That's how it fucking works.
I know.
They don't care. None of the people that are making these decisions give a shit how many copies Helldivers 2 sold.
Yeah.
They only care that if they get rid of this many people, if they shut down this thing, it makes it look like they're being frugal and preparing for the future, and the investors like that. The line goes up. That's it. That's all it is. There's no content-related reason for this. It's just shitty economics that is all short-sighted and all focused on the immediate payout, focused on the short sale. None of it is focused on keeping these brands going for generations, which is what people like you and I would think would be the goal, because that's what you're going. But that's not how making money works in the business world anymore. It's all
quarter to
now, quarter, infinite growth, up. And if you're not going up, you're doing something wrong. We're going to replace you.
Yeah.
That's it. And none of it matters. None of it, in the end, especially, it's harder to gauge with something like Xbox where they're doing this Game Pass thing. And I think part of the reason the Game Pass thing happened, yes, it was one of the ways to kind of make some inroads in the only way that Microsoft could by using its sort of infinite money. But I think one of the other issues there is by using the Game Pass model, it obfuscates how well and how poorly all these titles do.
By your logic, shouldn't Game Pass be exploding? Instead of how? Not exploding?
No, because
with new subscribers? If people are pinching pennies?
No, because you still have to buy a $500 Xbox for that.
Yeah, but you can spend $16 a month and play most
only if you already have an Xbox. You still have to pay hundreds of dollars for this system. That's the problem.
But I mean, they can get an Xbox One for cheap. They can get a Series S for cheap.
You can get a Series S, but that's what they're doing. Series S is selling like
crazy.
It is,
but shouldn't it be doing better if people are crunched financially?
No, because that's how crunched they are.
Wow.
It sucks right now, dude.
But I live in this world. I don't see it. Like, of course, I spend a little more when I go buy groceries, but that's it.
I don't know. Go to the Midwest. Talk to these people. Like, there's a reason people are screaming about economic distress all the time.
I think a lot of it's just fear-mongering in the press. And
some of it can be, but also you are seeing fear-mongering plus actually seeing the price rising at like the stores that never used to be affected by these things is going to affect people, and you're not going to lay out, even if you could afford $300 for an Xbox Series S, you're not going to lay that out because you might need it for food next week.
Yeah.
Like, that really is what's happening right now.
I mean, unemployment's at record lows. I don't know. I don't buy it 100%.
Unemployment's at record lows, but wages are at record lows compared to the cost of living.
No, wages have gone up the last 2 years. Like, significantly.
Not enough to match the cost of living.
I don't know about that, but wages have gone up significantly in the last 2 years. Like,
in which sectors?
Well, for like people who buy games typically, not rich people, like middle class basically. The middle class has risen up a little bit over the last couple of years. Their median salary
that still isn't covering the increase of cost of living in most of this country.
Yeah.
And that doesn't leave you enough spare money to buy a $500 video.
I mean, I feel it. Like, my rent has gone up. I don't even know how much in the last, 18 months. Like, this new company bought our building, and they jacked it up as much as they legally could the day they bought it. Mm-hmm. And then 12 months later, to the day, they jacked it up as much as they legally could again. They just started charging us, Matt, to park in our garage. I have lived in this apartment complex for over a decade, parking for free. Now I have to pay $200 a month to park in my own garage.
They just want you to leave.
They want everybody to leave.
Yeah, but aren't you one of the last?
We are, yeah. We're one of the last people who have, been there for a long time.
And you've been there for 20 years. You've been there since we moved here.
15 years I've lived there, yeah. So maybe they're trying to get me out. I don't know. But they're jacking it up on everybody. When you come home, you see the letters on everybody's doors. It's not just ours. Like, they're greedy. They want to squeeze every penny they can out of us, and that's happened in a lot of places.
Well, also remember, like, a lot of these places that are charging, $4,000 or $5,000 a month for these 2-bedroom places and these condo places are in LA, like,
that are empty.
Yeah, they're only 30% occupancy, but that's enough.
Yeah,
because
the property value keeps going up.
Property value goes up, but then you also have these, there's tax breaks for having low occupancy, so you use that, and it doesn't matter how many your buildings are empty at that point. That's why you got this, and then you got the fights of those 2 giant towers downtown that have been unfinished and empty for 5 years. They got graffiti. I mean, good. Like, they actually look pretty good now.
They do, yeah. I would hope that if somebody buys that building, that they leave the art.
Yeah, or hire them back and say, hey,
let's do it right.
I'll let you do it for real. Do it.
Take as much time as you want.
Do it way up.
Yeah, do it right. That would be awesome.
I saw it was an Instagram post, but it was street art that these people were doing, and it was people. It was just people hugging or people doing event actions or whatever, and they were blue and red. And if you looked at it through a blue lens, you saw the person. If you looked at it through a red lens, you saw their skeleton. And so it was like an X-ray view.
That's cool.
It was very, and then viewed normally, it was almost a stylized red and blue kind of mix of everything.
Wow,
it was very
That's sweet. That's good street art.
Yeah.
So anyway, bottom line, PlayStation 5 not selling as well as Sony had hoped. We also got other information. This financial report revealed a bunch of stuff. The other thing that it revealed is that now, Matt, Helldivers 2 is the fastest selling game in the history of PlayStation. The fastest selling game, let me say that again, in the history of PlayStation.
People love democracy.
So, that's a good one. What does this tell us, Matt, other than that?
I guess it tells us that if you're going to do a game as a service, make it unobtrusive and give it a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like, this is not like a personality-free... It's just not I can't even remember the fucking name.
It's got tone.
What's the Ubisoft thing?
X-Defiant.
X-Defiant.
Yeah.
Give me a name I can remember. Helldiver's a good name.
That says it all. You couldn't remember the name of it.
It probably helps that it's recognizable as Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
With a serial number filed off.
Yeah.
And just like it's fun, like not just in the sense of the gameplay, but like this is a fun teaser. The intro is cool. It pulls you into the world. It makes it real simple. It gets you there. It throws you right in and lets you play, and it's cool.
Think about all the amazing games that PlayStation has published, and this game beat them all. I mean, what does it tell you about releasing games day and date on PC?
Probably worth it. Like that, because a lot of the sales on this came from that.
I know. More came from PC than came from console.
It's also interesting to note that, like, they're kind of... I mean, if you look at a lot of the game as a service and the shooter stuff on PC, there isn't really a lot of stuff like this. Like that.
This is a very console-y...
Yeah, very console game.
Yeah.
Right down to the jank, really. It's a kind of a console... I don't know. There's something about this one that's just sort of like... And the first game had that, too. The first game had that, too, where it's like, yeah, this is not great, but it's like... There's
something about it
like it. It's like there's something to it. There's something to the attitude. There's something to it's like kind of like how Sonic was popular, even though a bunch of other things did the same thing. But it was just his attitude and the look and there's something about it that pulled you in that just didn't happen with Arrow the Acrobat.
Yeah.
Unless you were like a kid who only had Arrow the Acrobat. Then if you live Arrow the Acrobat, I'm sorry, you didn't have a choice. I get it. But
our condolences.
Yeah. So it's just like a perfect storm. Like, I don't think you could predict this.
I mean, if you're PlayStation, do you release all your exclusives day and date on PC now?
I mean, I would certainly, in terms of a game as a service thing, I would consider it. Because I think that's part of... I mean, obviously, it's hard to split the user base. And also the fact that there's crossplay is a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what Sony really learns from anything.
I know.
They certainly don't learn anything from releasing terrible fucking Spider-Man spinoffs.
Yeah.
But, like... I would hope they'd learn that, like, if you're gonna lean this hard on a game as a service thing, and who knows, because they've already canceled a few of their planned 10 did they say?
We're gonna talk about some of that here in a minute though, because there's more information on that stuff too.
Like, yeah, you want to put that on everything and everywhere as much as you can, and make it all cross compatible, and don't either PSN integration is there day one, or you do not get to put it in later. We've learned that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, I don't know. There is something compelling about the setting of this game and the kind of the community pushback on this, like the battle map here, and the fact that the developer is involved in things and the CEO is on Twitter like lying to people about there's no flying bugs. That's propaganda. That's bug propaganda. Like that they're playing
the whole
along
thing to the hilt. Yeah.
And they're like, they've got a guy whose whole full-time job is just to fuck with people by pulling the levers behind the metagame on the thing.
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, like they're treating it kind of like an MMO, like an old school MMO where like stuff just happens, like where suddenly there's a giant monster in town and you have to like City Heroes used to do
emergent stuff. Yeah.
And it has a handcrafted element to it. It feels like it's made by a team of people that are still small enough to really not be part of a machine.
Even though they are,
they very much are. Yeah. I mean, this is not a, but they worked 8 years on it. Like they're very invested. Like it's just a perfect storm of kind of like. Passion plus the right game at the right time.
But still,
the thing is,
like The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2 and all the God of War, all these incredible games.
But they're all single player, aren't they?
It's crazy. But here's the thing.
They do sell a lot. I mean, I'll be interested to see what the top seller is when the dust settles.
When it's all over?
I'm gonna guess that like
it sold 12 million already, Matt. Yeah. Like The Last of Us Part 2 sold like 16. Like it's gonna beat it.
But what would Last of Us Part 2 have sold if it was also on PC at the time?
That's a good point. It just on day and date, you mean? Yeah. Who knows? That's a big X factor there.
There are more and more reports that people are moving to PC more than ever, more than like since like the 90s, and that's where a lot of the concentration is. And piracy is still bad, but it's not as bad as it used to be because it's so easy to get stuff now.
I'm looking into upgrading my PC right now The last couple games I tried to play where the CPU was too weak, I'm like, all right, it's time. Like, I need it for work. Like, I need to I just don't have the money to do it. I just need to do it. It's the cost of doing business. If I'm going to run a gaming website, I need to do some PC.
I mean, I'm certainly glad I have mine because it's just a better experience all around.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I loaded up. I was Jedi Survivor this week because I'm just like, I haven't played that in a while. I loaded it up on PlayStation 5 because I had it copied, so I moved it over to the main hard drive and played a bit. I was like, this is hard to play. It's a little choppy, and I load up on the PC. Butter. I mean, it still isn't perfect. They never quite fixed that fully.
Yeah.
But the PC experience is still just way better.
Here's the big question to me, Matt.
I wish I'd bought Helldivers on PC, frankly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on your PC, I would buy everything on it.
Yeah, I just didn't because it was such a PlayStation franchise.
Such a console.
That I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah. Here's my big fear, Matt, is the success of Helldivers 2 alters what PlayStation is going to do going forward.
Yeah, that would be a mistake.
Meaning fewer single-player games. I mean, this is a gold mine.
I mean, this
is a gold mine for PlayStation.
I mean, that is kind of like what you'd expect the corporate dipshits to do, because they're not going to recognize that this is a once-in-a-lifetime.
They think they're going to be able to do this.
This is a giant fluke.
Yeah,
no one saw this coming.
I know, yeah.
The reason PSN wasn't implemented on day one is because they expected 75,000 players. They got 750,000.
Right.
Like, no one thought this. Even the people who made this game didn't think this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So, basing your future business strategy on something that has an unprecedented success that you didn't even really know why it's successful is not very good planning. But we also know Sony well enough to know that is, I mean, the game, 10 game as a service games in the space of 5 years thing was also a bad idea.
Is it?
Yeah.
PlayStation probably right now is saying, damn, we made the right move.
No, I wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be either.
Because I'd be like, we got lucky with one, shut the rest of them down because here's our fucking concentration now.
I bet they don't look at it that way.
I'm sure they don't.
And in fact, they don't. So to your point about poor planning, also announced in this fiscal report is that there is just one more PlayStation first-party exclusive coming this year. Any guesses what it might be?
I feel like I knew this before and forgot it because I don't care about it. I know they said it wasn't a sequel. It's not an existing unknown IP.
No, it's Concord.
Concord?
It is another game as a service.
I don't remember what that is.
We don't know because the only thing we have of it is right now is this 30-second teaser trailer.
I do remember this.
Nothing of the game. We just know that it is a game as a service shooter, and that's it. And all we have is this little teaser trailer. I mean, my guess is they're planning on it coming out this year. We should be getting a lot more on it here in the very near future. My guess is maybe next week. Because, there's that rumored PlayStation showcase that's coming up. But that's the only game coming out this year, Matt.
Yep.
I mean, they don't even have...
Somebody didn't schedule something properly, I'll tell you that much.
I mean, there's been 3 years of this now. Of, like, a platform completely bereft of exclusives.
Yeah, but part of it is they know that, like, people just think of video games as
they're like, well, they'll buy all the third-party stuff on our console and blah, blah, blah. But it is very out of the ordinary.
We're infinitely far ahead. We don't even know what else to do.
Yeah.
And there we go. And I'm sure part of it is just because they have a limited amount of first-party studios, and they're all working on stuff, and things take 5 to 7 years to make instead of 3 now. So
yeah, I
mean, you are.
I don't know if it's.
I would say Microsoft made the right call by stacking their deck with a bunch of new developers, but then they're now just shutting them down.
That hasn't worked either. So I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. Like, what is working now? It doesn't feel like a lot of shit is working anymore. It feels like things are not working anymore, and they're scrambling to try to figure out how to find new stuff that will work.
Well, but you know what is working? Nintendo.
Yeah.
They make smaller games that cost less and come out more frequently, and they all do pretty well, and some of them do really well, and they're fine.
Yeah.
And Nintendo retains 98% of its employee base, both in terms of not laying them off and in terms of them not quitting.
Oh, in terms of them, like, giving them raises.
Yeah.
Japan, there aren't any layoffs in Japan, Matt. The people in Japan are getting raises and profit sharing, while everybody in America in the West is getting laid off. Somehow Japan has figured it out, like... Capcom now is ringing the bell, dude. Japan
also has much stricter laws.
Glory days.
Japan has much stricter laws about that.
Yeah.
Too, which we probably should have too.
Maybe.
But
But
I mean, the solution to a lot of this is regulation, which is not something you're going to get through in this climate of how hard the weirdo right-wingers are screaming about everything should be free and you should all be free to die in the street if that is what God and the capital free hand of the market decides. You know, like that's real. I mean, I saw a libertarian dipshit on Twitter the other day saying that the true libertarian belief should be that if no one is around to feed a baby, that baby should be allowed to die because it clearly wasn't fit to survive.
These guys talk a big game.
But this is who you're
face to face.
Right, well, they're no face to face, but they don't have to be face to face to fucking legislate that in the South Dakota thing. I mean, you know, they can shoot a dog and they can pass some terrible laws and call it a day and you're done. Like that's, you know, and no one's going to help you at this point.
Yep. So anyway, I mean, I hope that this isn't a harbinger of things. I hope you're right, and I hope PlayStation is like, no, this is just a fluke. And they don't base what's happening in the future on what's happening with Helldivers 2, but...
I mean, I don't know about a fluke. I do think there's a little arrogant Sony here. I think there's a little bit, okay, we got a gap in our schedule, but like, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you going to do? Sell your PlayStation and stop playing video games? No. Like, you're just going to sit there and wait. And you're going to play Assassin's Creed and Star Wars Outlaws and Helldivers 2, apparently, and wait until whatever they put out next year.
What happens if this continues, Matt, for the next 2 years?
I don't know. Probably nothing.
Really?
Not really. Most people I know don't really care about these. Casual people I know don't really make a distinction between exclusives and just things. No, I
just mean the industry continuing to get smaller instead of bigger.
I think it'll just contract, and you'll get less big, you know, AAA games, and things will shift more into the kind of the smaller B-lister indie game space, and a whole lot of people in the kind of the third party, you know, EA, Ubisoft realm are going to look real fucking hard at what Capcom does and try to figure out how to replicate that. And GTA 6 is going to come out and blow the doors off everything and make all the shareholders and investors expect that kind of performance, and it's just going to get worse.
I mean, let's be honest, Grand Theft Auto 6 might save this generation.
Yes, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to save nothing. Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to make tons of money for Rockstar and Take-Two.
Oh, I think people are going to buy consoles to play Grand Theft Auto 6. Lots of them. I think that's what's going to get PS5 over the hump so it's even ends up in the same galaxy as the PS4. Because without Grand Theft Auto 6, I don't see that happening at all.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Really?
No.
You don't think people will buy consoles for GTA 6?
I think they'd like to. I don't think they can.
I think they will. I think that'll be like the big mover. That'll get a lot of people over the hump and get this generation over the hump.
I think
there's a lot of people waiting to buy consoles for GTA 6. Especially now that we know it's coming out within like 10 months.
100% disagree. Nobody knows it's coming out.
What do you mean?
Like the mainstream
people?
Dude,
the main trailer has done like 100 million views.
Right, but like...
Actually, that was like 2 months ago. It's probably at like 300 million.
But ask like my again, casual people I know don't even know it's coming.
Oh, my friends do. All my friends do. All my text threads with people.
And do they have
Philly
PlayStation 5s?
No, they don't. And they cannot wait for Grand Theft Auto 6.
And they can afford them.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. My friends are fine. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, my friends are rolling in money.
I don't think...
In fact, most people I know are rolling in money. I think that's why I can't understand...
Yeah, I think you have a very interesting vertical slice then.
I mean, they're just middle-class people like me who went to college at Temple
the middle
and
class,
they have decent jobs.
The middle class doesn't really exist anymore.
Well, they are.
They are, but they're an exception, not the rule.
No.
They're very. That's a very rare thing at this point, especially in the part of the country and the part of the state they're in.
But
that's actually very impressive.
They do have tons of disposable income.
That's really uncommon.
Because their kids are now out of college and off doing their thing.
Helps.
They're kind of living their second 20s right now. Mm-hmm. And they do have a lot of disposable income, but they are still waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6 to buy a console.
Are they on track for retirement?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, they're literally the 3% right now in the working class.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what else to tell you on that one.
Yeah.
I think Grand Theft Auto 6 will be an appealing buy. I think it will sell obscenely high in terms of attach rate to people who already own consoles. I do not believe that people have the money to dive into a $600 purchase because of a GTA game, no matter how much they might want to.
It's been 10 years.
10 years?
Well, since the last Grand Theft Auto, yeah.
You don't have the money, you don't have the money.
Yeah.
Like, I know Kutaragi wanted us to all get second jobs to afford a PlayStation 3, but that didn't happen then either.
Yep. Well, anyway, it will be interesting to see how this all plays out. And I'll be, to your point, Matt, if it doesn't get a bump with Grand Theft Auto 6, we are in deep shit. The industry is in deep shit.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't think 4-alarm fire, ring the fucking bell shit. Like, not like, no, that is a disaster.
Well, no, the disaster is the 83 crash, and it's not that bad. But
it wouldn't be that bad. Like, the industry wouldn't go away.
No, but it's probably about as bad as it's been since then,
right?
I would say.
Yeah, it would be. So, we'll see. Definitely some mixed signals coming out of PlayStation camp. The good news is Helldivers sold through the roof.
Right. You're going to see a lot more contraction before you see any expansion. I'll tell you that much. And again, the GTA 6 thing is a conundrum because I don't think it's actually going to sell consoles very strongly. Not because it doesn't deserve to, but because people just can't afford that right now, unless something drastically changes in the next year or so. The other thing is, no matter, even if it does sell it's going to sell super well regardless because of the install base is already there. People can, it's not coming. I guess it's not coming on PC day and date, so that's an issue. But I'm concerned that the lesson that investors and shareholders take from GTA 6's success is going to be, we want that too, so do that.
Yeah.
And that's just going to exacerbate the problem because it's going to come at a time when the other companies that do not make a sequel to the best-selling game of all time should really be being very careful about what they're choosing to do and what they're putting out and how much money they're spending. And you're going to have them overextending themselves and putting all these crazy projects to try to be the next GTA 6 into progression to make the shareholders happy and make the line go up. But none of that's going to happen, and a bunch of that stuff's going to get canceled early, and a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs all over again, and those jobs are not going to be replaced by anything. So I would worry that GTA 6's inevitable success, one way or the other, is going to make things worse for the rest of the industry.
Interesting. Don't forget, the only other PlayStation exclusives that have been officially announced are games as a service.
Yeah.
This is Fair Games, which is coming from Jade Raymond's studio, and then there's Marathon coming from Bungie, and that's it. Concord and these two games.
I mean,
all games as a service.
You can assume some things are. I mean, obviously, there's the Insomniac stuff we know about, but that's years away.
Wolverine's
2026.
Yeah.
Venom is theoretically next year, if that's still a thing, maybe.
Yeah.
One can assume Naughty Dog is still doing that fantasy game,
whatever,
and Last of Us 3 one day. And what else? I mean, we don't know what Bend is doing.
Yeah. These are the games. This is Sony's portfolio.
Sony Santa Monica is presumably doing something, but we don't know what.
I think we probably know, but
you'd think. But they're also big enough to do two things at once.
Yeah.
So it might be God of War something and something we don't know about. But all those things are pretty safe to say are years away. So what's next year? I mean,
I think these games are next year.
Yeah, probably. I mean, this is sort of the situation that Sony automatically put themselves in when they decided to throw in on 10 games as a service.
It's brave. It's paid off so far.
Well, it paid out once.
Yeah. We'll see if it can happen again.
I mean, I in the end, with the way games as a service happen and how they function, feels like 1 out of 10 is a pretty good hit.
It's like Pachter said, if you have 2, you are set forever.
Yeah.
Like, that's why EA doesn't release games anymore, but it still does pretty well financially because it has Madden and FIFA with Ultimate Team. It has 2 games as a service that deliver every single year. And that's enough.
Well, I know that because they've divided the kind of internally.
They also have Apex
internally,
Legends,
they've
too.
divided it into sort of like EA Sports and
games, entertainment
games.
or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But apparently, internally, they call them the profit and the non-profit sides of EA.
I mean, so anyway, we just talked about PlayStation for like 40 minutes because I mean, at this point, I mentioned before, it's like
a giant symptom of a larger issue.
Yeah, I think you can look at PlayStation to figure out what's going on in the larger scope of the industry more than the other guys.
Right, and I also think you can look at it to see what's going on in the larger scope of the economy. I don't think this is just Sony doing dumb things. I think this is pretty much across the board in non-essential items.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the latest on PlayStation. It's not looking particularly good. It really feels like, to your point earlier, third parties are going to carry the water here.
100%.
Yeah.
And Sony's done that, never to this degree, but there have been stretches, especially on the PS3, where you were really just you really were leaning on the people who only had a PS3 and just played everything on that.
And the third-party games initially ran like crap on the PS3, which didn't help either.
Yeah.
Let's actually check in with you guys real quick before we move on to the next topic here, because this is a big one.
They're lucky that they closed that gap on this generation pretty well.
Demon reminds us that, as a reminder, Spider-Man 2 barely turned a profit.
Yeah, well, that's because they spent $400 million on it, which is probably not acceptable.
Yeah.
Like, maybe half that.
People are bringing up Death Stranding 2.
Yeah. I mean,
when is that coming, actually? I'm not sure. I think that's 2025.
Next year sometime.
Yeah. That's still a ways away. Erebus Jones says, this is all a bit over the top. Nature abhors a vacuum. There will always be games. The only things in deep shit is the money. And screw those guys. Yeah.
The people who work in the trenches are on the line first. Like, those are the people who are going to suffer first. Eventually, that might trickle up to the people who hold the money, but they're going to get golden parachutes.
Yes, the developers who are losing their jobs, Erebus, they're people like us, man.
Yeah, thousands.
We're just working 50, 60 hours a week.
Thousands and thousands of jobs in the industry and the development level no longer exist since
how
January.
can you ignore that?
No one, I guarantee you, no one in the money area has felt this at all. Not even a little bit.
Rock and Roll 458. People can't even understand that besides Nintendo, no one cares about buying consoles anymore. Younger people are playing on tablets, mobile, etc. You're competing with Netflix and TikTok now, not the other video game box anymore. I think that's part of what's going on.
That is some of it.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a bunch of things that are all swirling together to create this environment that we're in.
Like, all the kids I know who play console games are playing on their parents' console. Mm-hmm. You know, like my friends all have consoles to play the games that we like and we're interested in, and that goes on down into the millennial age. And the younger kids, like, don't, no one asks for a PlayStation anymore. They ask for a phone.
By Mind X says, now the industry is moving toward mobile, so they will be fine. Well, they have to be able to make successful mobile games. Cracking the mobile game market is not easy, man.
Yeah, that's even harder than the game as a service thing.
Yeah, like, believe me, if it was easy, you could just go to mobile and make a bunch of money, everybody would be doing it. It's not that easy.
And they were for a while. They were trying to do that for a while, but it's gotten more crowded and things have gotten more entrenched.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you get a big breakout hit, but like, it's really just, the big boys. And then, like, if you can kind of eke out a little niche, it's great. But like, a lot of mobile game studios make one game and then fade away.
Silk Snake says, I'm so tired of waiting years for sequels, and I'm not alone. Yeah, I mean, and those gaps are just getting longer and longer.
I mean, it's not feasible to have sequels take 7 years to make. Like, it's just you're letting the people who loved those games that would buy the sequel age out of the demographic.
we have Mitch Secor, who is a PlayStation employee, trying to tell us that there are in fact PlayStation games. Okay, Mitch.
Well, you listed 2.
Right. In the last 3 years.
Usually Sony has had more than 1 per year.
Yes.
And I don't really count the Final Fantasy games because they are technically exclusives, but they didn't move the needle.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute too, Mitch. Those exclusives you just threw out there. We have another topic about those here in a minute.
Final Fantasy is not worth paying for exclusivity anymore.
Well, as Square Enix is finding out. Yeah. Surf Spider, Emperor Dread, and Caustic Kip. Thank you for Twitch Prime. Really, really appreciate it. Fire NATO can't believe that they spent $400 million on a Spider-Man game.
I mean, a lot of that is just because of it's not marketing. It's how long it took to make it. Because it costs a lot of money to pay.
I thought they said it was $250 million for development.
I mean, I think
and then marketing got it to $4 million.
I don't think marketing got it that far. I think $400 million is much closer to the development costs because
that information's out there. Somebody can look it up.
The official information's out there, but there are people who disagree with that.
Oh, you're saying there's people who were there that are saying no, it was way more than that.
Yeah,
gotcha.
and I believe it because if you do the math on how much you have to just generally pay people at a studio that large to keep it open for years, like that adds up. I mean, people make fun of Star Citizen and rightly so because that whole thing is a piece of shit. But like. Everyone's like, oh my God, they have $1 billion. Where did $1 billion go? I'm like, it went to keeping 3 game dev studios open on 3 different continents for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
It is, yeah.
So that's... The problem isn't that you're spending all this money to make these games and they don't look, where is it? It doesn't look like you're taking too long. It takes that long to make them. And if the way to cut the budgets is to make them in 3 years like you used to. And if they don't look cutting edge perfect anymore... Oh, well.
Yeah.
Like, you either going to get games or you're not at this point.
Yeah.
They cost too much.
Contano says, I'm wondering if I'll see Fallout 5 before I die. If we leave it only to Bethesda.
10, 15 years. Todd said they're going to start farming it out. Mm-hmm. So maybe 5 years. Man. I don't know. But again,
I think we'll see. I think you'll see.
Bethesda in particular is a weird case because it's like when did Skyrim come out? 2011.
Yep.
And we're going to see the next one in like
2026 probably. Be my rough guess.
So you cannot take the entire length of a human being's schooling life to make a sequel to things.
It's insane. It really is. And they're finally figuring that out, but way too late.
Like, I understand you've got these big tentpoles, and now they've made Starfield, which is not really the same kind of tentpole, but like clearly they intend to treat it as such. You can't hoard 3 of those to one team.
No,
because you're gonna get one. You're gonna get through one cycle of those 3 games, and it's gonna be time for everyone who worked on those games to retire.
Yeah.
But they won't be able to afford to retire because they've been fired.
Yeah.
So it's gonna get worse before it gets better, I think.
Majora Tom, thank you for Twitch Prime as well. Fire Native says, Matt, don't forget about those CEOs making millions in salary and bonuses for 10 years takes a chunk too.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, that's really one of the things that's happened is that the gap between management and the workers has just exploded.
Oh, yeah.
So you have CEOs that make, 30, 40 million a year, and you have your employees that are making 50 grand a year.
Talking about CEOs and the C-suite people making 1,000 times what the actual person who does the work makes.
Which is ridiculous.
And that's across the board in tech and general industry. It's all crazy.
It is insane. Like, I was a VP at Viacom, and it started getting to a point where I was like, wait a minute, like, can I give back some of my salary to my guys? Like, I literally went to HR, and I was like, I don't honestly need to make this much. Like, my guys are, like, struggling to, like, buy gas to get to work. They're like, because even if we had a down year, I would automatically get a 3% raise. Like, everybody. 3%. But when you're making a lot of money, 3%'s a lot of freaking money. And I'm like, dude, I don't need the 3% again. Like, give it to my guys because these guys need it. Like, I need them to keep doing their jobs well. They're like, nope, that's not how it works, Shane. My boss came to me after that. He's like, I heard you went to HR and you're trying to give your money away. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, we're all making way too much money for all the people out there. And he's like, I'm like, no.
Okay, Jabba. What are you?
No, seriously. He looked at me like I was an idiot. He's like, this is how it works, Shane. Like, be glad you're in this group instead of the other. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Anyway.
But and you'll get the excuse like, oh, the people in that range make more money because they're the ones making the decisions and their asses are on the line. I've never seen any of these people pay any consequences for their shitty decisions. You know, people that are getting let go from Microsoft.
Matt, all the people who were in that group that I was honestly in, those people all left at 4 o'clock. They show up at 10. They do one meeting a day. They fiddle around. They walk around and make jokes with people, and then they leave at 4 o'clock. Of course. My team and me, we're there at 8 in the morning, and we're there till 8 o'clock at night.
If anyone thinks that, like, people, your ass is on the line if you're in the CEO or president realm, and, like, if you make poor decisions, like, you make all this money, but if you make poor decisions, you're going to pay for it. I have 2 words for you. Phil Harrison.
Or Golden Parachute.
Right, but I'm giving you a specific example.
They're given millions of dollars to go away. Like, anyway.
But then they get hired to do the same thing somewhere else, and they fuck up the same way, and then they get the same
More
job.
Money,
it gets just over and over and over again.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of stuff going on at PlayStation.
Who in the world is looking at anyone that led the Google Stadia thing and saying, like, I want you on my team? Like, what's happening? Because they're all they all know each other. They're all bros. It's just... I mean, it's like a weird form of nepotism at this, but it's a club that you're not in. And that guy was laughing at you because he's like, dude, the door to the club is open to you and you're not walking through it. What's wrong with you?
Nolan Bozo Zone, Justin Spear deserved a raise. He did. They all did. Everybody that worked with me deserved bigger raises, and I fought for them every year, and it was like impossible. It was like screaming at a wall. So, anyway, to the point of the bigger point about PlayStation is it is sort of a barometer of how things are going in the industry, and that's why we talked about this topic for a while, because it is going to have reverberations for years and years to come. So that's PlayStation. Now let's talk about Nintendo. So we finally, we probably shouldn't be getting this data yet, but due to...
Well, considering we thought we were going to get it like a couple months ago.
Right, that's a good point, actually. Basically what happened
That's why it feels like finally.
No, you're right. Basically what happened this week is we got the specs for Switch 2. And how they got them was through import, export logs, shipping logs, manufacturing logs. Through all that information, they called it all together, and they think that they have figured out the specs of the Switch 2. Here they go. Here they are. Switch 2 will include DLSS support, obviously, for ray tracing. I think we all assume that. It will include 12 gigabytes of, and I've never even heard of this RAM before, LPDDR5X RAM. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of DDR5X. No.
Me either. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a special...
I haven't been keeping up on the current RAM situation, though, so who knows?
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Maybe somebody in the chat's heard of it. And then the NVIDIA Tegra T39 chip, which we've kind of known all along that they were just going to use the next generation of the chip that they have been using in the Switch. It worked for them. Why not go back to the well once again? And then finally, there will be 256 gigabytes of internal storage, which, thank you.
Yeah, that's better.
That's much better. Still really small compared to most other...
Yeah, still not great, but, like, it's something.
It's better than... And to be fair...
You can play more than one game when you buy the system before you have to get one of those SD cards.
Switch, it wasn't that big of a deal because, like, Nintendo's biggest game is, like, 10 gigabytes. Like, Zelda, like, Tears of the Kingdom is, like, 12 gigs or something. Like, it's completely different from... But that's going to change.
Yeah,
because
the instant you get textures...
Those 4K textures are going to change. So that 256 may fill up real fast.
Probably 2K textures, let's be honest.
Yeah, you're probably right. And then finally, that it is releasing in March of 2025. Now, Nintendo said they will announce it officially and show it for the first time before March of 2025. These leaks are suggesting it will actually be released.
Apparently, the DDR-X is mainly used on graphics cards, and they're a little faster than normal DDR5. The GTX 1080 has DDR5X on it, and LP Dreadwolf suggests it probably means low profile or low power.
Okay. Which means it sucks low power, which is very important for
battery life.
Which also shows you that, in fact, this is going to be a Switch 2, where it's handheld and console in one.
Well, Nintendo's not crazy.
Isn't it?
They can be, but they're not that dumb.
I don't know. I've seen Nintendo do some crazy stuff in the past. What do you make of these specs, Matt? How do you feel about them?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's pretty much what I expected.
They're kind of between a PS4 Pro and a Series S.
I was hoping for a pleasant surprise.
This is exactly what...
That didn't get it, but it's better than being disappointed, I guess?
Yeah, it's pretty much the I don't know if I call it a jump, but it's certainly the upgrade that I expected from them.
Yeah. It also sounds like they're not going to have hardware in the dock if these are the specs of the tablet, which, we're seeing B-roll right now for the Switch Lite, because it makes you wonder, how will Nintendo do that with the Switch 2? But I think they could probably pull that off with these specs.
Yeah. Unless there is hardware in the dock and it's more of a boost than we think, but that might be a separate purchase in that case.
That could be too. You're right. And then, the big question left to me is the screen. The size of the screen, will it be OLED? I mean, initial whispers are saying it's not OLED, which is disappointing. I'm used to the OLED screen now.
My guess it would probably be the same size as the OLED screen on the OLED Switch, but I think it's not going to be OLED. It's
going to be an LCD, which that tech is improved over time.
I mean, it won't matter to me because I'm never going to use it.
I really don't either. So. I don't use it in a handheld mode. I only use it in docked mode. So those are the specs for Switch 2 as we know them right now. It really feels like there's not much left to the imagination, Matt, with Switch 2 at this point.
Well, I mean,
we know what the controllers are going to be like.
The games.
Obviously.
I mean,
which is most important.
We probably guess Metroid Prime 4, but otherwise.
Yeah. I mean,
presumably they're holding back the next 3D Mario for that.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, we're going to find out.
And there's always a Kirby game.
Yeah. Or more than one. It looks like we are going to find out the games for Switch for the rest of 2024 at It's Not E3 Direct, just in a few weeks here. And then after that, like anything that we're like, where is X, Y, or Z? Those are probably going to be all Switch 2 launch games. So it'll be interesting to see what is coming for Switch for the back half of 2024 because we know nothing right now. Every game we know about is coming out before or around June or July. So lots of space there to fill up for Nintendo if, in fact, Switch 2 is launching in March of 2025. But anyway, that's the latest on the Switch 2. I don't know. I guess I was hoping maybe to be pleasantly surprised, but this is kind of exactly what I thought the Switch 2 was going to be.
This tracks.
Yeah. Which makes it seem all the more likely.
A gentle upward curve.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that's the latest on Switch 2. Next up, Marvel Rivals, which is an Overwatch clone bathed in Marvel juice, had a closed beta over the last week, and there are previews and tons of gameplay for this up on SIFTD.net right now if you want to check it out. The thing about it, most of the people that played it really liked it, Matt.
Could you try again?
Really liked it. Like, most of the impressions in the previews have pretty much been glowing. However, after the previews came out, not some bad news, but some nefarious news came out from the people who were working on it. Apparently, the people who were given the ability to play it early, who were either in the press or were an influencer, were forced to sign some kind of a document that said they would not provide negative commentary about the game in their previews. Now, again, everybody says that they really liked the game, and it had, they're not praising it just because legally they weren't supposed to criticize the game, but they did make it public, that they had forced them to sign this thing. Matt, I have never in all of my years working in this industry heard of anything like that.
I mean, I've heard of stuff like that when you sign up for like early access NDA stuff.
Well, they're like don't share anything
as a player.
Yeah,
but if you try to do that to the press, you're going to say something about it.
But they don't tell you not to share negative opinions. They tell you not to share anything. They're like, you're under NDA. Don't tell people you played this.
A lot of times, preview stuff doesn't have negative opinions anyway.
Yeah. I generally try to stray away from it, particularly for games that are still a long ways out, because obviously a lot of work can be done to them to make them better. So
I mean, that was like one of the unusual things about the preview coverage of Suicide Squad was like everyone's like, this sucks. And I was like, well, I don't remember the last time I saw that in a major preview.
For early access people? Yeah. So it's weird. Like it's like you would do that if you're not confident in the game's quality, generally, you would assume. But then as it turns out, the game's actually pretty good.
Yeah, but the people making these decisions don't know what a good or a bad game is.
Or they don't know what otaku's going to think about the game until they play. And so I think maybe they were erring on the side of caution, but it's a terrible look. And hopefully not a precedent that other publishers and developers follow. Although, based on the negative feedback they got about this, hopefully it has sort of scared off other publishers from trying something like this. And again,
I don't think it would occur to most other publishers.
Yeah.
This feels like a Marvel demand.
Yeah.
Marvel's very weird about things like this.
Yeah. It could have been, actually. And the publisher probably contractually cannot share that it was Marvel.
Oh, no, that would not be a good thing to do, no.
Yeah, so maybe they were in between a rock and a hard place. Because, again, this isn't like coming from a brand new publisher. This isn't their first game. Like, they've been in the industry for a while. They should know that they can't get away with something like that. So I think you're probably right.
You can't explain that to Marvel people.
Yeah, they just don't get it. Yeah. But I guess ultimately the big story here is that Marvel Rivals, according to most people who played it, I did not get to play it, like it and think that it's good. Which I think when we first saw it, we were very skeptical. You were very skeptical of it.
I remain very skeptical.
Yeah, you're not a big hero shooter guy in the first place, or a shooter guy.
I will never play this game.
Really? You won't even give it a whirl just to check it out?
Why? To have all the characters I like jump around like idiots and try to fill some bar 4% at a time for that? No, I have a finite lifespan, and I'm not going to spend it playing this garbage.
I just thought maybe out of curiosity.
I have no curiosity.
Just be like, hey, like they made an Overwatch game based on Marvel. I love Marvel. Maybe you'd check it out. No.
Nope.
Just to see maybe how they handle some of the characters and the abilities they give them. And...
I can see that in the video when you play the B-roll when you talk about it.
That's true. That's true.
I don't care. I don't care how you adapted Hulk to a shooter game. I don't care how Spider-Man does some ultimate that makes him act like Spider-Man for 5 seconds and the rest of the time he's running around shooting webs like he's an Overwatch character. I do not care.
Yeah.
And I don't care about how matching everything up with other multiplayer stuff. I don't... Nope. Well, I'm interested in Marvel because of the characters and the story, and there is none of that in this.
No, you're right.
So I don't care.
Okay.
This is not how you get me to play. It's also same with like Marvel Snap or anything like that. I don't.
Marvel Snap's huge.
Oh, huge. I played it for a while, but then it's just the same old grind and the same old, loot box shit and the same old like, oh, you want Venom? Well, spend $1,000 and get a 0.3% chance you get Venom. I'm like, well, fuck you.
Or play for 100 hours,
right?
And watch a million ads.
If you let me buy Venom, I would probably buy Venom or whoever the character I wanted. But if you're gonna make me like play the lottery for it, I'm just gonna go home.
Yeah,
like I don't care.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys are interested in Overwatch with Marvel, good news is it seems like most people who played it did enjoy it. So maybe something to keep an eye on. Next up, maybe something you do care about.
As Nick Sitwell says, I don't love any property enough to play a game genre I hate.
Yeah.
Not even Marvel. Yeah. And that's 100%.
Fair. That's fair. And maybe a game that you do care about. We are starting to hear rumblings about the new Doom. In fact, it's more than rumblings. People have gone out on a limb to say that the new Doom will be at the Xbox Showcase in early June. Basically, it's not E3 press conference. Through some of the hearings that were held during the Activision Blizzard acquisition, basically the title of the game has already been revealed. It's called Doom Year Zero. Any idea what that might mean?
I'm guessing that's the... it covers the moment when the forces of hell get to Earth.
That'd be my guess, too. Yeah. That's when it all starts over again, basically. After Demons, AD. Just made that up, obviously. What would you like to see in the new Doom?
I would like to see it more like 2016 and less like Eternal.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with Eternal, it's just not my preferred way to do Doom.
Do you like that whole risk-reward system where...
No.
You don't? That seesaw?
Eternal felt too much like a weird combo system. It felt like The Club, or like what was that one combo-oriented shooter with like
Bulletstorm?
Bulletstorm. It felt like that, and like that. Not saying that's not a valid way to do a shooter, but I have zero interest in that. Like, I like.
Since you don't remember, like you got health and ammo back from enemies depending on how you killed them.
Yeah.
So it was this seesaw, like, I'm out of ammo, so I need to kill this enemy. I think it was melee got you ammo, is that right?
It depended on how you killed them.
Yeah. I think melee got you ammo and a gun got you health or something.
And that was also in 2016, but 2016 was a more straightforward Doom shooter.
It was, yeah.
And Eternal was more like a skill test.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I watched some people play this game, Doom Eternal. It was like they were playing a different game.
Oh, yeah. It was like you watch someone
insane.
You watch someone who really knows what they're doing playing Doom Eternal. It's like watching a ballet.
It really is crazy.
But it's just like, I don't really care to do that. Like, that's not what Doom is to me.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm not gonna spend the time it takes to get that good at this game. Like, I just want to blow shit up and run through. That's what Doom is to me. So, like, and I don't remember what the sales were like on one versus the other, so I don't know which one you'd probably be more likely to follow, as you know, in terms of planning it. But I do feel like doing the game like Doom Eternal makes the hardcore happier, but limits your general audience appeal.
I agree. I think 2016 was the better game.
Yeah, I would say so.
I liked it more.
I understand why people like Eternal better in certain
players, yeah.
But like, I absolutely would say 2016 is better.
I liked it more. Yeah, it felt more like Doom.
Yeah,
Eternal felt like it pushed away from what Doom had.
It felt like playing Stuntman with a Doom skin.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, like you want me to do all this weird shit to like play the game correctly, but to me, playing Doom correctly is killing the thing.
Yeah, on a flat plane.
Yeah,
Doom Eternal became this acrobatic like thing where you could fly through the sky. And
like you never touch the ground.
Yeah,
it's just like, what? Who played Doom and was like, you know what would help this? Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
It became like a character action game almost.
Swanland says, I like the story and lore more in 2016.
Yeah.
Noel on Bozo Zone says Eternal underperformed. Okay.
But Ashes
says it sold more.
So which is it?
Robalist9 says, I would love to see a new Quake game with the Doom 2016 Eternal treatment. Yeah, I mean, they gotta do something with Quake.
I mean, it's just Quake never really got any traction as a single player game.
It never got over the top that way.
Quake, if you're going to look at what defines Quake, it's Quake 3. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what you try to aim at. But then, like, nobody cared about that Quake Resurrection a few years ago.
Yep. Yeah, I think Quake may just be DOA.
I mean, does anyone care about the Strogg subplot anymore?
It doesn't feel like it. No.
That Quake 2 remaster is about as good as it's going to get.
I mean, you can keep making games for us, middle-aged guys.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a winning strategy in the long run.
Yeah, I don't feel like the boomer shooter thing has a lot of future in it.
I don't either. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, if they keep going further down the rabbit hole that Eternal did, or if they kind of dial it back a little bit like 2016. I'm hoping for the latter, but we will see. It looks like we're going to learn a lot more very, very soon. I mean, it is due. We are due for a new Doom, and it could even be, Matt, like where it comes out this year.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, id Software hasn't done anything else. Like, this is all it should have been working on all this
Doom
time.
and Wolfenstein have been very conspicuous by their absence.
Yeah. So we'll see, but it does, I mean, this also came from a very reliable source, this information, or I wouldn't have it in GameFace. So it does look like we're going to get a look at the new Doom in the very near future. Next up, tomorrow, people, we got a big moment tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. They are debuting the brand new Assassin's Creed that is now called Assassin's Creed Shadows. It was formerly called Assassin's Creed, codenamed Red. It is Assassin's Creed. It takes place in feudal Japan. As of right now, all we have is this 15-second teaser that we've run on GameFace. I can't tell you how many damn times at this point, but in the very near future, we are going to finally get a reveal of what the game actually looks and plays like. Although, actually, what they've said is that it's going to be a cinematic trailer tomorrow. So, basically, we'll get the plot, probably the main protagonist. We'll get to see who that is, and that'll probably be it. You'll get the premise of it, you'll see who the new character is, and then we'll wait patiently for a gameplay trailer in another 2 months or whatever. That'd be my guess. Are you excited?
More excited in the sense that I was right that this is their November game, which means Star Wars Outlaws is probably going to stay in August.
Yeah.
So I get to play Star Wars sooner. Unless something happens to this in which Star Wars is going to slip to November.
We may also get the release date for this too tomorrow. That's a possibility.
Oh, we already saw the release date.
Oh, we did?
It's November 15th.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, I did not.
I don't remember if that was official or not, but
somebody found it,
It's
though.
November 15th.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that also makes me feel very confident that Outlaws is coming out.
Yeah.
When they say it is.
Outlaws is definitely coming out this year.
Yeah, for sure.
If something happens to Shadows, Outlaws might slide to November to be their big holiday game. Yeah. But I would say Outlaws is a lock for this year.
That's awesome. I cannot wait to play that game. I also hopefully after I watch this trailer tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and it'll be on SIFTD, obviously. I hope that I feel the same way about this, that I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, there aren't many Assassin's Creed games I'm not interested in, usually.
I mean, I will say this.
I was interested in Valhalla until I played 100 hours
of it. Exactly. That was what I was going to say, is like, I'll be honest, Valhalla turned me off to the franchise a little bit, Matt.
I'm trying to judge them all individually.
Yeah.
It's just, Valhalla was a weird thing. Valhalla just went on too long.
It was way too long. Yeah.
And I mean that in the sense of how
after the base game.
Right. Well, I mean also in terms of how long the game takes to play and how long they spent on it. What, 3 years?
Yeah.
Where no other games came out?
Yep.
Yeah, it was too long. If you were going to spend that much time on one of those Assassin's Creed ancient games, I would have preferred the Greece one.
I agree. I think everybody would agree with that, actually.
Just for the setting, and because I think Cassandra's a much more compelling character than Eivor.
Yeah, I agree.
Honestly, so's Bayek, for that matter. Like, it's weird that not that I dislike Valhalla, but it's definitely the least of the three to me.
It was just not exciting to play.
No, and it's the least interesting mythology.
I agree.
Norse mythology is done to death, and also it's like I could just go play God of War and see a much more interesting version of this.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, too.
It is, yeah.
Whereas, like...
The other eras, there weren't direct comparisons.
I mean, that's the best Egyptian mythology has ever looked in a mainline game. And like I just like loading up Odyssey and seeing it. Like seeing the seashore and the I mean, I've never been to Greece, I know you have, but it's like you can almost smell that game.
I went back after I went to Greece. I went back and played it again just to see. I'm like, how accurate? And it is very, very accurate.
It's just a more pleasant game to load up.
Yeah.
Visually and aesthetically.
Yeah.
And you load up Valhalla and it's just like, oh, it's raining again. Of course it is. We're in England. It's like, and everything's muddy and everything looks, oh no, you're in France now. I'm like, am I?
Really? Because
it all pretty much looks like the same thing I've been playing. Everybody's got a French accent now.
Yeah. Look, I'm not giving up on the Assassin's Creed franchise. I've loved it for a really long time, but this game definitely soured me a little bit on it.
Yeah, but I mean this, and I'm curious how it's going to translate to the Japanese setting. But like also kind of Rise of the Ronin sort of gave me this feeling of just like, oh, I would like to play a game like this that is a little less up its own ass in the combat system.
Yeah. One thing I'm pretty much preparing myself for, though, is a lack of verticality. Because that's what we learned in Rise of the Ronin. Like, there aren't any buildings more than 3 stories high.
That's one of the issues. Is you're really leaning harder into stealth than you are into the height and the verticality, which so
it could be a good change of pace,
sort of, but also so did Valhalla. To some, Valhalla didn't, he had the towns, but there was no. One of the things that I miss about Assassin's Creed, the older Assassin's Creed stuff, is the cities, the size of the cities, the density of the populations, the blade and the crowd idea, which was one of the original ideas of the series, and Mirage kind of brought some of that back, but it was too. It played too much like Valhalla in terms of like the baseline gameplay controls, and I never felt fully in control of what I was. It felt like trying to graft the kind of the Blade in the Crowd stealth mechanics onto Valhalla, and I didn't think it worked. So my main hope for this one would be that they revamped how it plays to adapt to that.
I mean,
somehow.
they kind of have to, man.
You would think, but I would have said the same thing about Mirage, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Mirage really feels like Valhalla DLC in a lot of ways. And I really hope they went back to the drawing board more on this one.
They've had a lot of time.
They have.
That's another thing that I'm like, okay, you need to deliver. Because you've had more time to work on this than almost any Assassin's Creed ever.
I mean, I agree, but then I look at Hellblade 2, and I'm just like, does it
matter?
Does development time mean anything in terms of how different something's going to be, or how
random? Yeah, I hear you. So anyway, again, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, at SIFTD.net. Head there, check out the first real trailer for Assassin's Creed Red, now called Assassin's Creed Shadows. Interesting that last week we were talking about Batman Arkham Shadow, and now it's Assassin's Creed Shadows this week. I'm excited to check it out. Hopefully you guys are too. Next up, we got an update on Dragon Age Dreadwolf, Matt. This information comes from Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb, who I will admit he has been wrong about a couple smaller things lately. Normally we would say anything he reports, 100% ironclad. There's been a couple smaller things he's reported lately that didn't end up being true. Just want to bring that up.
He did get ahead of those not being true when he found out they weren't true.
He did, yeah. And he was a responsible journalist, and he went and owned it and was like, look, I got bad information, blah, blah, blah.
Vincent also notes that Sega is calling it the Year of the Shadow. Because Shadow the Hedgehog is the game, and he's in Shadow the Hedgehog 3 at the end. The third Sonic movie.
Good call.
A lot of shadows this year.
That's funny. Somebody else said something. They tagged us up here. What'd they say? Accidentally released by the French YouTube channel.
Okay, that's where the release date came from.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't see that actually. And then Vincent says we'll get gameplay at Ubisoft's press thing, not E3 press conference here in about a month or so. So more stuff to look forward to. Next up, Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Matt, we still have not... We have tons of trailers for this game. Tons. Yeah. Right in my TriCaster right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 trailers for Dragon Age 4 in the TriCaster. And not a damn one of them tells you anything you care about. There's no gameplay.
They tell you who the villain is. That's about it.
That's it. Yeah. No gameplay. It's all just like, I don't know, just prose and
this
lore.
Game's coming.
And,
we're making this game.
Yeah, it's really happening.
They all feel like announcement trailers.
Yeah, all of them, all 4 of them. Yeah, it's very bizarre how they've marketed this game. However, Jeff Grubb is contending that 1, the game is nearly done, and 2, it is releasing this year. Are you shocked by that at all?
No, I knew that.
Oh, you knew it.
I mean, I knew that was the plan. God, I mean, it's been 10 years. What's another 5?
Yeah.
Right?
Matt has friends in places that he only mentions stuff that he hears from them at appropriate times. I guess is the best way I can put it.
Well, more and more, they're not in those places,
right? Because everyone's getting laid off. Yeah.
So,
so this makes me very nervous, Matt, because the little clips that we saw of it a couple, 2 years ago, it really looked awful.
Yeah, well, that was never meant to be seen.
Yeah, I understand that, but man, it looks so bad.
Yeah, but again, never meant to be seen.
Yeah, I know.
Like, every game looks like that in development.
I mean, it almost looked like a Dreamcast game.
Yeah, but because visual polish is the last thing you had.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why all the people whining about the Wolverine game are stupid.
Or GTA 6, when we got that footage.
Because, like, Wolverine... Oh, well, this is like Spider-Man. Yeah, because they're using Spider-Man assets as placeholders so they can develop the gameplay. Like, you do all the visual polish last.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be fine. I mean, the concern about Dragon Age 4 is that if this thing doesn't sell like 10 to 15 million copies, that's the end of BioWare.
BioWare may go away.
And
although even though they're already working on Mass
Dragon
Effect,
Dragon Age is the most successful of their franchise. Dragon Age sold more than Mass Effect did, which confuses the hell out of me, but whatever. I mean, it did. I mean, Inquisition is their top seller.
Oh, it's huge. It did huge. Inquisition.
Well, it also had a lot of time to sell.
Well, it's also been 10 years pretty much since Inquisition.
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah.
So now everybody who played Inquisition when they were 16 is almost 30.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I mean, I know people our age remember this game, but like, it feels like a hard sell. I mean, they're smart to not call it Dragon Age 4.
I mean, if you're a 15-year-old, the last game came out when you were 5.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, this is Kingdom Hearts shit.
This is like might as well be a new IP at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is tough because unless you play Inquisition, the weight of the villain in this is not really gonna make any sense. I mean, like, maybe it can. You can tell a story that way, one or the other. But it's like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, at this point, I just hope that the people who are big fans of Dragon Age are happy with it.
Yeah,
because that's
kind of a lot.
But that's kind of the only hope left. Is I hope it doesn't disappoint the people who love Dragon Age, because I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, it's always just been one of those middle of the road franchises to me.
I find it too generic to really get too invested in terms of just fantasy stuff.
It was one of the first like big budget action RPGs.
I mean, it was after Mass Effect, so I don't consider. I mean, I know the first one's the most liked one. I hate the first Dragon Age. Like, I thought it was archaic and barely playable even at the time, and I think it's just gotten worse over time. I like 2 the best, which is weird because 2 is the least liked game by the fandom. But I think 2 is trying to do the most interesting thing, where they're trying to tell like a pretty self-contained story inside the walls of a city. It's got a lot of problems. There are 2 dungeon maps, and they just close and open a bunch of doors, and all the dungeons in the entire game. Anytime you go in like an underground sequence, it's one of those 2 maps just moved around, which is awful and real lazy and real obvious. But like the whole point of the game is to set up the inciting incident that creates the situation that Dragon Age Inquisition is based on, and that is going to be finished up in Dreadwolf. So in a way, 2 is sort of like, we're telling you the story just to tell you the next story. But overall, I do like what it's trying to do, even though it does sort of railroad you into the conclusion one way or the other, because one way or the other, the Mage Templar War has to happen.
Yeah.
And then Inquisition is fine. Inquisition is like I enjoyed it. But like I played it twice, which is fine. Actually, I played
what you do.
I played all of them twice. Actually, I did play. I got 1,000 out of. I got all the achievements on the first 2. Never fully did that on Inquisition, but thing about Inquisition is like one of my disappointments in Inquisition is like realizing that a bunch of the stuff on the war table map was not anywhere I could go.
No.
Like how much of that was just like, oh, it's just like the Assassin's Creed, send somebody off, wait an hour and come back and they have like a thing for me. It's like, oh, I don't get to go to those places. That's disappointing. Leave the hinterlands, for God's sake.
But I wonder what people in chat think about Dragon Age. Because, again, it's been a decade. Like, it's hard to know how people feel about a franchise that has been gone for so long.
Well, Mighty Pony Girl is probably the biggest Dragon Age fan I know.
Oh, yeah?
She is a devotee.
She says all the Dragon Ages are wonderful and terrible in different ways.
Yep. We made her play the Mass Effect games a few years ago because she was like, wasn't into it, and she was like, Mass Effect. At one point, she's like, Mass Effect 2 is really boring and dumb, and I'm like, that's my favorite one. And it turned out she was playing the PC version, and there was some glitch, and none of the incidental dialogue was playing.
Oh,
and I'm like, that's like half the character work in the game. Like no one was talking the whole time. Oh no, it ruined everything. It's like. It's I know a lot of very hardcore Dragon. The other thing about Dragon Age is almost all the super hardcore Dragon Age fans I know are women.
Interesting.
They love.
I wonder why.
Because a lot of the appeal of Dragon Age is how many elf butts you get to touch, metaphorically speaking. There's a lot of relationship simulator appeal to it. There's like a dating simulator appeal. There's a shipping thing happening in addition to sort of the epic thing. It was very early on, even it was very free with sort of the LGBT orientations and who you could date.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Iron Bull is a good example of a very non-toxic sadomasochistic partner. Like there's a lot of weirdly progressive stuff in this game about like mages throwing fireballs at demons that you maybe wouldn't expect, but people appreciate.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the tradition that I would think everyone's, and I hope too they can continue in the new one. And this time, of course, everyone you're gonna have a whole contingent of chuds saying it's woke,
right? Even though it's the same as
even
it was
though you're gonna go back to like
10 years ago.
Second one is like, bro, it's been like this since the fucking beginning.
The game hasn't changed. You changed. Yeah.
You became the villain.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Or actually, the people that you get your opinions from on YouTube turned you into the villain.
Yeah. So anyway, Dragon Age Dreadwolf coming out before the end of the year, according to Jeff Grubb at Giant Bomb. I pretty much trust him on this one. He does seem to have good sources there. And I'm corroborating it.
I'm putting my money on late October for that one, with a possibility of slipping to Q1.
Yeah.
But I think they want to release it in October, November.
Okay. Next up,
And remember, if you like Dragon Age or BioWare or anything, buy it because they need to sell 10 million of these damn things.
Yeah.
If you want to see Mass Effect 5,
or if you want to see the next, if you want to see the Mass Effect, you better support Dragon Age.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Next up, we were talking earlier, we were going back and forth joking with Mitch a little bit. He was saying, there's been plenty of exclusive games for PlayStation, and I said, well, we're going to talk about something in a little bit that may throw a little bit of a wrench in that position. And Square Enix announced this week that it is no longer going to do exclusives with anybody. It is like, that's it. All these exclusive deals we've been doing with PlayStation. It's done a couple with Nintendo on Switch, but most of it has been with PlayStation. Those are all done. All its games...
A little late to the party, but they finally got the spirit.
All its games from now on are going to be released multi-platform on day one.
I agree with this decision.
I agree with this decision as well. If it's going to... what I really hate about this, Matt, is that we may never see another game like Final Fantasy 16 because it sold so poorly.
True. But also, I think if you let that team make a Final Fantasy, it's going to be a little more adult targeted. It's going to be have a little more of a brain in his head. So I'm not super worried about that, especially because we're going to be like 55 by the time we need to worry about that.
No, you're right. So Final Fantasy VII Remake was one of the big exclusives. And then the second part of that, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, was another part of the exclusive stuff that Square Enix has done with PlayStation. Also, Forspoken, was that also a PlayStation exclusive? So this has been something that Square Enix has been doing with PlayStation. I mean, you can go all the way back to the PS1 era, honestly. This is something it's been doing with PlayStation 4 forever.
Well, it's also kind of like part of the lesson here you would hope is like, being exclusive doesn't matter if no one gives a shit about the game.
Right. And that was what I was getting at when Mitch was saying earlier about, there were these games that nobody cared about. And the reason that no one cared about them is because Square Enix is not doing it again. It is saying because of the sales of Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth and Final Fantasy 7 Remake that it is no longer going to follow this program. It is now going multi-platform, equal opportunity, whatever money hats Square Enix received from PlayStation for those games apparently ended up not being worth it.
Yeah, in the end, it clearly would have been mathematically better to squeeze as many people across all platforms as possible who were dumb enough to buy Forspoken on day one.
Yeah.
Not that I disliked Forspoken. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, me too.
It just didn't hit the public interest.
It didn't have that special...
Didn't have that spark.
Yeah, it didn't, unfortunately, to catch people's eye. Although it was more than a competent game. I enjoyed my time with it.
I liked it.
It had a different vibe to it, too, from other Square
Especially once it started to work properly on PC. But that's another thing. It came out late on PC. And I feel like if you'd been day and date on that, you would have had a lot more sales there. And hopefully it would have run better than it did when it launched. I mean, they were still kind of getting into the groove on the PC releases at that point, so maybe you can't really blame them on that in terms of PlayStation exclusivity.
Feels like everything's going this way, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only reasonable choice.
It feels like
you got to put everything on everything and hope you get whatever you get.
It feels like the whole theme of housekeeping in this episode is multi-platform is the way to go. Yeah. We talked about it with Helldivers and PlayStation. Now we're talking about with Square Enix and PlayStation. Or just releasing games exclusive to PlayStation is no longer a good idea. Maybe that's really the recurring theme here.
Certainly seems true of game as a service, and I think, at some point, I would expect Sony would want to experiment with something, like put Naughty Dog's next game on PC the same day. Yeah. And see what happens.
Yeah. And again, it's been doing this with Nintendo as well. Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince just recently came out for Switch exclusive. This we're seeing it right now. And it did not sell very well either.
No, I noticed they did reassure everyone that Dragon Quest 12 is still happening.
Right, yeah. Because Square Enix has canceled a bunch of projects behind the scenes that it doesn't feel confident in. So Square Enix right now is going through a reckoning, really.
Everybody is except Capcom.
Yeah, it really kind of feels that way. Yeah.
I mean, Square Enix is having... I mean, I said it before. Whatever Square Enix's big, 800-pound gorilla of a franchise is, it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Like, they need to create it. It's either they're going to create something new that sets the world on fire, or maybe Kingdom Hearts, who knows what that... but whatever it is not something they're putting out currently.
And it's not easy to come up with one of those games.
No, and you don't even know when you have it sometimes, as
like
Helldivers.
Helldivers, yeah, perfect example of that. So big changes coming from Square Enix, really changes that have been in the works since the PS1.
Yeah, long overdue, I think. I think it took Square almost 2 generations to realize that it wasn't not the
working.
PS1 era anymore. Like Square has not been... and then they sold off all their Western stuff, and like so you don't even have like the Tomb Raider stuff or the
to fill in the
gaps. I'm surprised we don't have the Tomb Raider news on here today.
Which Tomb Raider news?
That Phoebe Waller-Bridge is doing.
Oh, that just broke this morning.
Yeah, this morning.
Yeah,
but like that's a fascinating combination.
Yeah,
because she's very smart. Her writing is very, very good.
It is good.
Fleabag is excellent. And a Tomb Raider series in the style or the tone of Fleabag would be fascinating.
Yeah.
She's going to do something interesting with that character that a lot of people are going to hate, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And that's going to be on Amazon Prime whenever it's finished, but they're just starting it now. It's years away still. And then another side note about PlayStation before we move on to the next topic, they announced their new CEO overnight when they announced like a lot of the financial stuff, and it's actually CEOs. So Herman Hulst and Hideki Nishino are teaming up to replace Jim Ryan. Herman Hulst. Wow. So first he's promoted to the head of PlayStation Studios, which I was surprised about. For those of you who don't know, Herman Hulst comes from Guerrilla Games. They make Killzone. Now they make Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, which are good games.
Yeah, I mean,
Killzone was pretty good. But I was still surprised that he was the one named to the head of Worldwide Studios. And now he has been promoted to the ultimate job at PlayStation. He's the CEO. Are you surprised by that at all? What a meteoric rise for Herman Hulst.
I don't know what to think about any of it, really. I don't know enough about him to know what he would do or what his plan would be or why they think he's right for that. Not in a skeptical, like, negative sense, but I don't know anything about these two guys.
Now, head of studios, when I thought about it more, it made a little bit more sense because everybody is coming to Guerrilla for help with the engine. So Hideo Kojima went and worked with them for a couple months to build the engine for Death Stranding.
In terms of rising stars, they're kind of all they got.
Yeah.
Guerrilla's the only existing team that really showed a lot of vision and forward thinking in terms of, we don't want to do Killzone anymore. We have this other idea. This other idea turned out to be really good.
A successful new IP.
And now we're going to work with Kojima on the Death Stranding thing with our engine. We're going to progress that tremendously. So Death Stranding is going to do stuff with that engine that we hadn't even attempted before. And then we're going to use all that what we learned to make Forbidden West one of the best sellers of anything Sony put out in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, where else do you pull, I guess? I mean, part of me, I mean, maybe I'd be a bad company leader, but part of me would want to keep him running that studio that's doing so well for me. I don't know if that's a valid strategy in the business world, if that's how that works, really. But part of me is like, well, why would I want to take the guy who's been leading this team that's really been coming through for me and put him in a higher position where he can't oversee that? And I guess maybe they have people at Guerrilla that all know the deal, too, and can do it just as well as he is or something.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, I don't know. Like, and I don't know who Nishino is. In general.
He's a business guy. So I think that part of it's kind of smart. You have one guy who's a content guy. You have the other guy who's kind of the business guy. And you team up. And between the two of you, you do a good job. That part I'm okay with.
Yeah. I don't have any actual evidence of this. But when I saw this news, there's part of me just felt like they just put targets on their backs.
Yeah. What about Neil Druckmann? I'm wondering if Neil Druckmann is like, why was Herman Hulst promoted?
I don't think Neil Druckmann wants that.
Well, I'm just wondering if...
Neil Druckmann wants to direct movies.
I know. And he recently said he only has 1 or 2 more games left in him. But I do wonder if that's a little bit of a response to getting passed over for that promotion. And maybe if he had got that job, he would have stayed engaged with game development.
I don't think he... I would bet money Neil turned it down.
Really?
I don't think Neil wants to do that at all. He wants to make movies.
Yeah.
He wants to do TV and movies. That's his love.
I'm
weird. 100% convinced of that.
Well, it seems like it would be a new love.
No, I think it's what he always wanted to do. I think he's Kojima in that way.
Oh. Like he used games as a way to get to what he really wanted to do?
100%.
Interesting.
I mean, look at what he did with games when he finally got control of Uncharted and made Last of Us. He made movies that happen to be connected by gameplay segments, but he's making movies. That's what his interest is in narrative storytelling. And look how, he came alive doing that Last of Us show and did a good job directing
his
that one episode. Working under the wing of one of the best showrunners in the business right now.
He learned a lot. Yeah.
I guarantee you that's where he wants to go.
Interesting.
It's also a lot easier work.
I'll be honest, I would feel a lot more confident if he were the head of Sony. I mean, who's going to take that job now?
I wouldn't, because I think he'd be too apathetic. I think he should go do what he wants to do.
I agree with that. Yeah. But he's never said publicly that he wants to make film and TV over games.
But I am also someone who wants to make film and TV over games, and I kind of feel like a game recognizes game there.
Gotcha.
And I see the film nerd in him in more than... Also, like, you know what? Like, one of the other things about making movies is, like, you're done with that movie in 2 years as opposed to the game you're stuck on for 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Like,
I can understand that.
He might only have one more game in him because that's going to take him half a decade, but then he has enough time in his finite lifespan left to make, like, 12
right.
movies.
No, that's a good point. Yep. There's more output in film and TV for sure.
And he's also a smart dude and probably realizes it's getting time to abandon ship in this industry.
Interesting.
That would be part of my expectation there as well.
Yep. So anyway, the new leadership team is in place at PlayStation, and it's going to be a dual threat. East Demon says Naughty Dog games have always been movies.
Yeah, they've always been there. Well, not always, but like once Amy Hennig came in and started doing Uncharted.
Well, once it was possible to make games that were movies.
Starting with Uncharted, yes, they've been very narrative focused.
Yeah.
To their advantage in the end, they do it very well generally.
Majora Tom says, not bad for a developer that once made Shell Shock Nam 67. Yeah, I mean,
True.
look, a lot of game developers come from humble roots. I mean, you got to start somewhere. What's Cliff's game, like Jack Rabbit or whatever? Like, he always talks about his first game that he worked on.
Oh, yeah, Jazz Jack Rabbit.
Yeah.
Where's that reboot? Where's that gritty reboot?
I don't think that's happening.
Jazz Jack Rabbit.
Of War.
2125.
Right, yep. And then next up in our housekeeping, I told you it's big housekeeping today. At long last, Red Dead Redemption is coming to PC. It's taken, how long has it been? A decade since it came out?
Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah.
That was like, wasn't that 2008 or something?
Yeah, it's been way more than a decade. It is finally coming to Steam and PC after all this time. I think it'll sell like crazy.
Maybe.
I think Rockstar will just print money with this game.
It's gonna depend how well it. I mean, we've seen Rockstar put out.
That's a good point. It could be crap.
I'll wait for the reviews on
That's
this one.
That's a good point, because remember what happened with the Switch version?
I'm not even talking about the Switch version. I'm talking about the definitive edition.
I know. Yeah. There's several examples that we can pull from where you might want to be a little bit nervous about any Rockstar game coming to PC. But people have waited a long time for this. Like,
also, we'll see how much it costs.
You mean to like buy or to make? To buy?
To buy. Like, if this is $50, it might not sell as well as it might otherwise.
It probably will be.
I don't know about that. I think you're overestimating how much people care about this.
No, I'm not. I'm overestimating what Rockstar thinks it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it'll sell at $50. I'm saying Rockstar will charge $50.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how it sells. I don't think it will sell very well. But anyway, it has finally happened. Just more of a public service announcement more than anything for those of you who are PC players who've been waiting for this game to finally come to your platform of choice. And then our next to last story is Mark Hamill is returning to voice the Joker in Multiverses. Matt, what is going on with Mark Hamill voicing the Joker? Like, why didn't he voice the Joker in Suicide Squad, but he's voicing the Joker in this?
He's voicing the Joker in this because Kevin Conroy is Batman in this.
Okay.
That's it.
They're
I guarantee
they're
you
a team,
that's why. Yeah,
tandem.
they are a Batman-Joker team, and I'm sure he's basically coming out of retirement to do it because this is one of Conroy's last performances.
Okay. So you think this will probably be his last performance as Joker as well?
I mean, he said that several times already. I think he just loves playing a Joker.
Yeah, well, because he's freaking amazing at it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this will probably be another last performance of the Joker until next time.
Okay.
But
next time.
I'm pretty sure he's doing this specifically because it's Kevin Conroy is Batman in this, and he feels like it's his last time to play off that version of Batman.
Yeah, I can understand that completely. It's a shame. Like, he should always be the Joker in everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard on his voice.
Yeah, I can understand. I can see why it is hard on his voice. This game, by the way, Multiverses, comes out very soon. It's coming out before the end of the month here. You guys probably remember that we basically reviewed it like 2 years ago in 2022 based upon the beta that we played. Then it disappeared for a couple years, and now it's coming back. It's launching at the end of this month. So
yeah, I keep getting emails about it. I'm just like,
me too. They keep bombarding me, and my inbox keeps getting hammered because you were in the beta.
Yep.
They get your email address.
We were all in the beta.
Yep. And then our final story for housekeeping in this episode is we got a hint at what the next Media Molecule game is going to be. And if you remember, Media Molecule, they made Little Big Planet, they made Dreams. They generally make games that help you make games yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity tools in all of their stuff.
Yep. And as it turns out, they're turning away from that a little bit for their next game. We are friends with somebody who works at Media Molecule, who we just hung out with not that long ago, actually.
Well, not anymore.
Didn't get a hint at what might be coming down the pike from Media Molecule, though, unfortunately. How do you feel about this? Do you think leaving their safe space is a good idea?
I don't know how seriously to take any of that, because like, it'll be more conventional. It would have to be, wouldn't it?
I mean, there's nothing more unconventional than their games right now.
Yeah.
Even Little Big Planet was way more conventional than Dreams.
Yeah.
So even if they just go back to what Little Big Planet was, where they do kind of build a single player campaign for players to play through and give people tools to build their own stuff, that would be pulling back, so to speak, on how it's been making games, or how it made Dreams anyway. Dreams, to me, the biggest problem with it was there wasn't enough content to play as just a player, as far as like stuff that they created inside the tools. Like there was a little like mini campaign. I think it took a few hours to get through or whatever, and you had to rely on everybody else. And they are good at figuring out how to create a database where the good stuff bubbles up with player votes and all that kind of stuff. But still, there's something about playing content created by the people who made the damn game. I think a lot of people just want to pick up a game.
I think some of this may also be that I think a lot of the people that made Media Molecule what it was back in the day aren't there anymore.
And maybe they can't do this anymore.
I mean, not to be a dick about it, but like it's just sort of like maybe going more conventional is a little smarter if you're not dealing, people like Alex and all those people that kind of made Little Big Planet and Dreams what they were have moved on. Mm-hmm. Like it might be that's what we know we can do.
Yeah.
And you can still have, the art style and the unconventional. I mean, I'm sure it will still be recognizably Media Molecule, but it might just be a more traditional game. That's fine.
I worry that it may be the end of Media Molecule.
I am surprised Dreams wasn't the end of Media Molecule.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Because it did not do very well financially. It left the lexicon very quickly.
It was more of a industry prestige title. Like everybody in the business was impressed by it and loved it, and it had its own little following, and every once in a while it would hit the headlines because somebody makes something crazy
like the Donkey Kong
thing, or the Jurassic Park game, and things like that. But there was part of me that was expecting them to be shut down after they shut Dreams down.
Yeah.
But if they're letting them do another game, cool.
I'm kind of surprised by that. Yeah. It feels like with all the cuts being made, that might have been the smartest cut.
I don't know.
I hate to say it. But
I mean, it's not this. I wouldn't call it the smartest cut, but it kind of felt like the most likely cut from like your business, your bean counters. You know what I mean?
As far as like, hey, we spent X amount of money on this, and we made Y amount of money.
Well, and also like if you're showing these guys who don't know anything about anything, like God of War and this, which one do you think they're going to think?
They're going to give the green light to? Yeah, I hear you. So I don't know when we'll see it. Probably not for a while. But it does sound like Media Molecule is going to sort of turn its back on what it's built its name on here. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. But they, again, they are very creative. So there is some hope that they could come up with something like, we were talking earlier about how hard it is to launch new IP that's successful and how Guerrilla did that. And the head of Guerrilla has now been promoted up through the ranks. Conceivably, maybe Media Molecule could do the same thing. And, create an IP that actually becomes a big seller and becomes a franchise that PlayStation can rely on for years to come. I think they thought they had that with Little Big Planet, but it just lost steam after a while, unfortunately.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, there was something about Little Big Planet that was of a time.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have the timelessness. And I don't know why.
I think a lot of it for me was the floaty mechanics. The jumping in the game.
It wasn't actually that... It didn't actually feel that good to play.
Nope.
It was impressive because of its creation tools.
But it didn't feel good to play. Yeah.
No. And they never really improved that.
No.
They never did. Three of them. I know they didn't do the third one, but it just never really got any better.
No, it never did. So there you go. That's our housekeeping for episode. Wow. We really went over on our housekeeping in this week's episode, but I told you it was big. I knew there was big stories. I knew it was going to take a while. We're about to get into the bulk of the show, but before we do that, here's a word from our awesome sponsor, LS Cream.
LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted.
That's right, people. Go to creamls.com/sifted and Cray Mass, deadass. It's an amazing liqueur that mixes so well with so many different things. I told the story last week about how my wife was using it when she had insomnia just to help go to sleep at night. It really does. And she was just pouring a little bit in a glass of milk. And it changed the flavor, but it just gave her a little bit of edge to help her doze off at night. Go to creamls.com/sifted. Hit all the recipes there. Make yourself some drinks. I'll tell you this. You will be pleasantly surprised at the drinks you can make from the recipes there. You can also figure out how to get it there. There's a store locator to find it locally. You can buy it online, so they deliver it at home. If you go into a liquor store, you're trying to find it, this is what it looks like. Very distinctive, very easy to find. I found that most of the bottles of liquor at the liquor store are clear, and not many of them are black like this. So it's very easy to pick out when you go into the store. Support our sponsors. Support LS Cream. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. And with that, it's time to move on to talking about the games that we've been playing this week. And easily, the biggest game that I played this week was Hades 2. Matt, you did not get a chance to play it, right?
No.
What's your experience with the first Hades? How much did you play it?
I finished it, but I didn't play a ton. I didn't play New Game Plus stuff really or anything past that. I liked it a lot.
Do you think it was worthy of the Game of the Year rumblings? And
yeah, I would say it deserved to be in the conversation. I wouldn't have given it I didn't give it Game of the Year.
Yeah, we did.
It's definitely one of the best roguelikes I've ever played.
Yeah. What set it apart for you?
The art, the character work, the story that incorporated the repetition into the narrative, and just sort of the more the solid gameplay mechanics in terms of the fight. The fighting is fun. It's fun. It's fun to play. It's not the fun of a lot of the roguelike games tends to be getting further, and the gameplay is sort of it's what you have to do to progress. Whereas with Hades, I had a good time playing the game, and if I progressed, even better. But if I didn't, at least I still had fun fighting stuff, and that is not true of honestly most of the games in that genre that I played.
What stood apart the most for me with the first game?
Binding of Isaac's maybe the only other one, and Returnal are the only ones I can think of that I enjoy playing as games in and of themselves.
Oh, I hated this genre. I still hate this genre, other than Hades and Returnal. They are literally the only two games in this subgenre that I have really enjoyed. And the reason I enjoyed both of them is because you die in these games, just like you do in all roguelikes. But instead of starting all over, you go back to a base, and you spend time at this base basically powering up your character, and then you go out for another run to hopefully do it all over again, collect more resources, and you're eventually going to die. You come back, you're more powerful, you go back out again, and then the idea is that every time you make it just a little bit further until you get to the point where you can basically make it through the entire game. Now, the other thing I like about this is that it saves. So it's not like you turn off your console or your PC, and I should mention, by the way, that this is only available for PC right now. The lower third says all platforms. The console versions of this are not coming for a while still. It is in PC early access on Steam right now, so you can only play it on PC, but it is eventually coming to pretty much all consoles. It is also coming to last gen, like PS4 and Xbox One. And to your point, Matt, it is a gorgeous game, but Supergiant's very smart in how they build these games. They're playable on pretty much everything. Also, this game runs like a beast. Even on my now crappy PC, this game, no hitches. It just ran like a monster. So even if you have kind of a crappy PC like I have right now, don't be afraid. You can totally jump in and play this game. let's talk about the story. So in this game, you play as Melano. I think that's how you pronounce it. And she's a witch. She is the immortal daughter of Hades, thus the name of the game. And she is the princess of the underworld and the sister to the character that you played in the first game. Mm-hmm. And the whole objective of her quest is to triumph over the Titan of Time, which is named Kronos.
I'm going to guess her name is Melanoe.
Melanoe?
Noe.
Melanoe?
Yeah, usually in ancient Greek stuff, you pronounce each vowel separately.
You're right, actually. And it's it is Melinoe. You're probably right. So anyway, after the first game, her brother succeeded in reuniting the parents together and meeting all of his extended Olympian family and all this stuff. It was like a big family reunion at the end. In Hades 2, he's passing the torch to Melanae. And according to the mythology, as I said, it's his sister. And basically the entire game is you joining up with the Greek gods, and they aid you in your quest to stop Kronos. So, and you're seeing it right here, perfect timing with the B-roll. Periodically, you will run into other gods, and they give you power-ups, basically, that once you select them, you keep them. And that's what helps you become more powerful. So not only do you, after you die, do you go back to what's called, I think they're called the crossroads, which is the base in this. While you're playing and you're out in the field, you also get these power-ups. And as you saw, each god gives you 3 options, and they're all in specific classes. You can only have one, I believe, in each class. However, if you pick a power that's in the same class as the one that you already have equipped, it buffs that power. It gives it like an X2 or whatever. So there's a lot of strategy involved with how you pick the powers that you take from the gods that help you on your quest. And obviously, you want to have a well-rounded arsenal to take on all the various enemies you encounter in the game. The game does feel randomly generated to me. I'm not 100% sure if that is the case. Do you know?
I don't know. I'm sure it is fairly procedural generated, but I don't know to the extent.
Yeah.
I haven't been paying a ton of attention to this game. It's kind of one of those things where I'm just like, I'm going to play this when they're done.
Yeah.
But
it is, that's the thing. This is done pretty much. Like, I played it.
Not done enough for me.
Okay.
I'll wait until 1.0 on this.
Okay. I mean, I'm playing version 905.592 or whatever it says there on the screen, and it feels like a done game. Like, it feels polished AF, no glitches, no issues. I just kept playing. I have not finished the game. I haven't made it to the end yet, but I've played a ton of this, and it just keeps on going. So there's a lot of content there already, and it's all extremely polished with very minimal bugs. The writing, there isn't much of a story in this. In fact, you probably were watching the B-roll. You're like, wait a minute, like, every time GameFace has B-roll, you see the opening cinematic at the beginning of the B-roll that kind of lets you know what the story is. This game doesn't have one. It literally, the game just starts, there's like 3 lines of voiceover, and then where you saw the B-roll, that's where the game starts, where she just spawns in the crossroads. And then through the course of playing the game, you learn the story that Kronos has taken, I think she's taken like her grandfather or something, or Kronos is her grandfather.
Kronos is her grandfather.
Yeah.
Kronos is the Titan that birthed all the main gods.
Right, okay. And so you're basically on a quest to kill your grandfather. That's really the overarching plot. Mm-hmm. And while there aren't any cinematics really in the game, and there's mostly just talking head, like text that you follow to follow the plot or whatever, the voice acting in this is incredible. It is really, really good. Like, I don't know what it is about it that makes it stand out. It feels like all the voice actors in this have a dialect, but it's not like a dialect from Greece or something like that would relate to the game. It sounds like they're from Brooklyn or something. I don't know how to explain it.
It's a very it's in the first game was like that too. It's influenced by like urban fantasy and modern stuff. There's a lot of Neil Gaiman in how they're interpreting a lot of this. It's just a more it's a more current take on things, and that generally works because mythology is very transmutable.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yep. So as I said, a big part of this game is dying, and when you die, you go back to the base called the Crossroads. And once you get there, like, it's insane all the stuff that you can do at the Crossroads. When you first start, there isn't that much stuff, But there's a cauldron in the crossroads that you can go to, and basically there are incantations that over time, like it has a ticking clock. You have to clear X number of rooms before it will be ready for the incantations. Well, if you die, you go back to the base, the crossroads, you go to the cauldron, and you can perform the incantations. And what it does is it unlocks new stuff in the crossroads. And that stuff is really important because a lot of it is like stuff that will level up and make your character more powerful. A lot of it also has to do with the plot. Like a lot of the gods are just hanging out in the crossroads, and you can go and talk to them, and you can give them gifts. Like if you give them nectar, like it will level them up. And eventually it gets to the point where you're like doing farming and things like that in the crossroads. It becomes crazy, all the stuff that you can do there. You earn silver as you play. You use the silver to unlock tools and weapons back at the crossroads. And one thing I will say is that you're going to want to spend your silver on weapons because we're just wired that way. However, I would recommend spending that silver on tools because the tools that you get, you take out into the field with you, and it helps you earn more silver. So it's kind of like compounding interest. So I invested in the tools very early. I started getting tons of silver, and then after I had this bounty of silver coming in, I started spending that silver on the weapons then. I'll be honest with you, the different weapons to me didn't affect the gameplay as much as I thought it would. What affects it more are the buffs and the new abilities that you get from the Greek gods that you just pick up either when you're back at the crossroads or when you're out in the field. Sometimes there'll just be drops there that you can pick up and they'll give them to you. And that affected the gameplay far more than acquiring a weapon. Like right now I have a staff, like I think I got like a scythe or something like that. And the attacks do vary based upon that stuff. But I honestly, as far as my success out in the field, it felt like to me that wasn't as important. So just something to keep in mind if you pick it up and start playing it. As I talked about the incantations already, there's also I should mention that the buffs that you get from the gods are called boons. They were also in the first game, and that system has really gone kind of unchanged. So if you're familiar with it from Hades, it kind of works the same in Hades too. There are timers on the cauldron, I said, but there's other things back at the crossroads that use the timers as well. There are chests and other things that are also on the same timer, like you have to clear X number of floors before you can get there. The other thing I would say too is that like intrinsically you want to go as far as you can with each run. You're like, oh, see how far I can make it, and she'll even say like, oh, we made it farther this time when you go into the next door or whatever, when you finally get further, and you want to do that because the game is encouraging it. But I would argue that you need to die. You need to die to go back to the crossroads, to the base, so that you can level yourself up, because it does get to a point where you're like scraping by each floor. And it's like you can maybe hang on.
The first one had that too, where like you had, not only was it important to go back to do leveling up, but you like unlocked new conversations with the different characters, and sometimes they'd give you new game mechanics to play with, and so like you weren't really fully developed as a character until you died a few times.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's the other thing too. Per run, there's tons more gods in this, but per run you're only really going to interact with like 3 or 4 gods. Which obviously encourages replay value, because if you play it again, you'll be able to interact with other gods you didn't on your first run. And as I said, you get their abilities. They're called boons. They affect attack, specials, your cast, which is the one spell that you've seen in the B-roll that creates the area of effect. And what that does is at first, it just slows down enemies. But after you level it up, not only does it slow down enemies, it also does damage to the enemies. So there's that. There's cast. What else is there? Oh, I just lost my place in my notes. Oh, there's the sprint, and then there's mana recovery. And those are all the attributes that you have in the game that you can affect either by working with the gods or just by playing the games yourself. And again, there's all kinds of these little hidden kind of quirks and perks in the boon system. I'm not going to spoil a lot of that stuff. You kind of discover it on your own, but it's pretty darn cool. The doors in the game, after every floor, you're presented with a choice of which door you want to go out. And the more you play it, the more you learn what each icon means. And that really is a big determinant in how far you make it on your run. Like, when I first started playing, I had no idea what each door meant. You can figure some out. Like, if there's a heart on the door, you can pretty much assume that's going to give you health if you go in there, and usually it does. But some of the other ones were a little more ambiguous. I didn't know what they were, and as you play, you start to figure it out. Making those decisions is really the key. Because it's like, look, as you learn the icons, like eventually you learn like that's the mini boss, and it's like if you're not prepared and you don't have health, you don't have a shield, you probably don't want to fight the mini boss. You want to choose another path. The other thing I should mention, if you look in the bottom left there, you basically have 2 meters. One is for your health, One is for your shields. You can get health while you're out on your runs. It's not like you have one health bar that you have to live on. Again, a lot of the doors will show if there's a heart on them. If you go in there, generally, if you clear that floor, you're going to rebuild your health almost up to full. But you really have to keep an eye on both the shield and the health in this game. Because you get attacked a couple times, your health meter can go down almost like 80% from a couple attacks. So you really have to be alert and keep an eye on it and make sure that you're managing it and start getting, honestly, like, defensive. And I would just say, too, that one thing in this game that's more important than you might think is the sprint and the dash. It gets you out of trouble. It helps you run away. That stuff's a lot more important than you might think, so just keep that in mind when you're working on your build. You can cancel attacks. You can't dodge cancel. Once you dodge, you're locked into that dodge, but you can cancel attacks in this. And as you get further into the game and your runs start to get longer, that stuff also really matters. Also, Melanae, how do you say it? Melanae?
Melanoe would be how I'd read that, especially with the umlaut over the E.
Okay. Melanoe, her cast, which is that area of effect thing I was talking about, is way more powerful in this game than it was in the first game. Because I think it only froze enemies in the first game. I don't think it ever did any damage, if I remember correctly. Do you remember, Matt?
What?
The area of attack, the cast.
I don't remember. I feel like you could upgrade it to damage, but I don't think it did by default.
I don't remember that. Also, one thing to keep in mind, unlike the health and the armor, Melanie's magic meter replenishes every time you go into a new room. So the other pro tip I would give you is just unload your magic, because you're going to get your whole meter back as soon as you finish the room. You only need to manage it just for that room. When you go through the next doorway, it will go back to 100%. There's also environmental traps in some rooms that you can use to your advantage. There's objects that are destructible. You can manipulate the enemy, so if they're coming after you, you can make it so that they come in such a way that they get to the traps, and then you basically flip the trap when they're right next to it. You can take out a bunch of enemies at once. A lot of the game is about crowd control, learning the patterns of the enemies, how fast the enemies can move. One thing I found myself doing in this game is going into a room and not doing anything at first and just observing. And seeing which enemies are in there, because the enemies are definitely randomly generated. It's not the same every time. So the first thing you want to do is go into a room and see what enemies are in there. Hopefully you've already faced them and you know what their patterns are. If you haven't, then you just watch them for a little bit and watch what they do. Watch what their attack patterns are. Figure out if some of them are fast. Maybe there's a mini boss in there that can jump really far and deliver an attack. A lot of it is just planning before you engage with these enemies, figuring out what they're good at, how you need to defend them, how you can attack them, what kind of attacks really do a lot of damage, all that kind of stuff. Eventually you get elemental stuff, like the first elemental I got was Frost, which I'd never wanted to replace after I got it, because if you would charge up your one attack, it would freeze enemies in place. And again, this game is all about crowd control. Oh, there's these 3 guys who are really fast that are coming this way. Oh, I'm going to drop my cast right here and freeze them while I take on this other enemy that's a little bit more slower but has a lot more hit points. So you take him out, you take him out, you take him out. Maybe by the time you finish that, the cast is ready again. Cast it again, freeze those 3 enemies again, unload on them. It's a little bit like isometric action RPGs, honestly. A lot of it is like, you don't have coolers or like timers that you have to watch. Like, you can basically just spam all your attacks as much as you want to. That's how it's a little bit different from isometric action RPGs like Diablo, but the concepts are very much the same. You have these groups of enemies, they all do different things, have different abilities. You have to learn their abilities, what their advantages are, their disadvantages are, and then manipulate them in such a way that you can take them all out and finish off the room and move on to the next room. And that's pretty much, for me, how I've survived throughout this game. And as I mentioned, like, the one thing I like about it, you can just stop and be like, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to pause right here, and you can pause the game, save it. When you open it back up, you're right back where you left off. A lot of roguelikes aren't like that. Like, if you die or you quit, you just start all over again. This is the roguelike for people who don't like roguelikes, like me. Like, I like this game, and I like Returnal, and I pretty much don't like any of the other ones, Matt. Like, they just typically don't sing for me. But I have had a blast with this game. It is only on PC right now, in early access. If you're a person who likes story-driven stuff and wants a lot of plot, character development, stuff like that, this is definitely not the game for you. This is, and I generally like games like this. This is a gameplay-first game. There's no doubt about it. And I would argue I probably got a little bit of my gameplay-first stuff from Greg Kasavin, who is one of my mentors. And
he's funny because most of the fandom is around the characters in the story.
Which I can totally understand. I can totally get it. Because they are memorable. And the voice acting in this really brings them to life. Here's yet another thing that is in the Crossroads in the base. It's this crazy card thing where you use ashes to unlock these cards. And each time you unlock one of the cards, it unlocks the ones around it. So right now, the grayed out cards, you don't know what they are. But once you select a new card, it reveals all the other cards. And this is another important thing to build it, to constructing your build. You can see here, like, each of these cards. Increase your life limit. Restores you by the amount added. Like, max magic. These things are important, and there's tons of stuff. It almost became, Matt, overwhelming going back to the Crossroads, back to the base. Because there just becomes so much stuff. Like, when you first start, there's just a cauldron and a couple people to talk to. You go out on your first run, you clear a few floors, you come back, then the cauldron unlocks. And you can start using the cauldron to unlock more stuff in the base. And it almost became, like, too much. Like, there's this whole process that you go through of unlocking new weapons. And then there's a dude in there you can test the weapons on. And then you go out on your run with the stuff you got from that, and you come back, and now all of a sudden there's, like, a new merchant. The base is always evolving and changing and always giving you stuff that will help you build the perfect build to play it how you want to play it. I was just I was just really impressed with this game. And I will say this, it does not change that much from the first Hades. So if you did play the first Hades and you were not a huge fan of it, you're probably not going to like this game either. But I don't know anybody, never met anyone that said that, Matt.
No, not common.
Yeah, I mean, most people enjoy playing this game because it is. The other thing too is that, like, it's pretty simple. Like, you have like 3 or 4 different attacks you can do, but each one of them, like, you can power up. Like, so you have, like, let's say you have like the ability to shoot like ice arrows or whatever. You can pound the button and hit them as fast as you can, and just, like, chip them basically. Or you can hold that same button and you'll see it, like, power up. Some of the attacks, if you power them up, it'll give you like a strip of effect for the attacks. So it goes beyond what you were able to do by just tapping it. There's just all this stuff to experiment with. A lot of it you can figure out on your own, and whether it's the type of game that the way you want to play the game. I like games that let me play it the way that I want to play it instead of forcing it on me. So I don't know. I had a ton of fun with Hades 2. I recommend it. Is it a Game of the Year contender? That might be going a little bit too far for me. And I didn't think the first one was really a Game of the Year contender. I do appreciate the fact that the first game made the roguelite palatable to people like me who didn't generally like it. And so I can understand a little more why the first game was a candidate for Game of the Year with some people. This second one, it's a sequel. And so there are improvements and there are changes that fans will notice, even people who only casually played the first game will notice, but there's nothing so drastic that it, like, creates this new category of roguelites like the first game did. I guess that's the best way I could put it. But again, it's out there. It's on Steam right now. You guys can go and download it. Again, it feels done to me. I don't know. They're saying that they're going to take a lot of feedback from fans and make big changes to it. Having played it for 10, 11 hours at this point, I don't really see a lot of stuff that needs fixed. Like,
balance changes in these games can change things completely.
You're right, actually. That's a good point. You can start tweaking, like, enemy values and things like that. That can make a big difference. And to be fair, I haven't finished it yet, and I've played it a lot, so maybe they do need to tweak some stuff. Maybe I should have been able to finish it by now. I don't know. But I've had a lot of fun with it. It's Hades 2. It's only available for PC right now. It's eventually coming for consoles. My guess is the console versions probably come out at the end of the year, although the first Hades did stay in early access, I think, for a full year before they released it. Yeah, so we'll see how that works out for Hades 2. But I do recommend it. Vincent says, my bet is that 1.0 is a Switch 2 launch title. That could be. Yeah.
Could be, but it really feels like they intend to make it 1.0 this year.
Yeah. It feels that way.
It didn't sound like they intend this to be in early access as long as the first game was.
Right. Yeah. And the Abrams says some artwork is still unfinished, like character portraits. I actually didn't even notice that. I thought all the art in this looks amazing. The game looks amazing, too. And again, it runs like greased lightning, no hitches, none of that stuff. So, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with Hades 2. I recommend it. I don't think you'll regret it if you know what it is going in. And it didn't feel repetitive to me either, like a lot of roguelites. You're like, oh, not again. Because, again, they're mixing up the enemies in each room. It never feels like you're doing exactly the same thing twice. The difficulty is good. Like, it feels the same. The ramp up feels the same every run, but everything else in between does not feel the same. So kudos to them. They're very good at making these styles of games. Like, I haven't even really dove into like the minutia of this game, like the stuff that you're talking about, Matt, like the enemy values and like how all these systems work together to like get you through like the late game. Like, I haven't even got to that point yet, but I've still had a lot of fun. Like, I got this for free. They sent both Matt and I codes for this game, but if I had paid for it, I would not regret it at all. Like, I would totally be fine with what they're asking for this game. And again, if you like being a part of the early access process where you're given feedback and you're actually seeing your feedback in the game, you will love this game, because they really do take to heart. Like, Supergiant loves its fans, and they listen to y'all. So if you want to be a part of actually changing the way the game plays and maybe the way the game looks and stuff like that, this is a great project to get involved with and start working with them on the game. Yakov226 says, how do you think this all financial situation will affect the length of this generation? Oh, he just dropped a random question out in the middle of nowhere. Well, wait till the end when we do Q&A to ask questions like that. But it doesn't seem like
there won't be Q&A on this episode.
Probably not. I don't see many questions, though. Oh, Link So Good says it runs great on Steam Deck. That's good to hear. Emperor Dread says the cast spell would change its function with some boons and weapon aspects. Okay. Did it ever do damage, though, in the first game?
I don't remember. It's been years.
The Abram asked, did you unlock the other path? I did not, actually. Unless I did it and didn't notice it. But I'm guessing I would have noticed based upon your question. But no, I don't think I have. I think that's it. Noxatornitis says, I love to see how the Greek deities are portrayed. Yeah, the art in it is great. The characterization is great. Like, it's really awesome how they interject energy into these old characters that have just kind of become passé over time. They really give them like a new twist and a new angle on what kind of people they were and that type of
that's
stuff.
why I say the urban fantasy influence is there. Again, the closest approximation to the updates of gods and how the portrayals of things like this has been Neil Gaiman and Sandman. Mm-hmm. That's the closest I think I can get to a direct comparison. And honestly, not enough things take influence from Sandman, so it's nice to see.
Yeah. So there you go.
Just going to skip the part where they say I'm right.
What part?
One point, someone Nox Eternus, I think, said that I was right about how her name is pronounced.
Oh, I didn't see that, actually. I still don't see it. Matt is correct on the pronunciation. Okay, cool. Go SIFTD at SIFTD Games. It makes it easier to pluck that stuff out.
Have you seen Kronos yet? Have they shown Kronos at all?
No. I haven't seen him.
All right. If you remember God of War 3, the giant guy in the middle of the game, that guy is crawling through the desert and you have to climb up him and that's Kronos.
Oh, okay.
In God of War. I don't know what he is in this.
Okay.
He's probably like a deadbeat dad who like eats too much or something. Yeah.
You may be right. But that's how they twist up these characters. Like,
because Kronos was he was the one who was eating all his children, and then his wife when Zeus was born, tricked him into eating a stone, and so when Zeus grew up, he went and fought and cut his gut open and freed all his brothers and sisters, and that's the Olympian pantheon.
That's demented.
The Titans were not wonderful people.
Yeah. The Abram says, I got to him 2 times. He beat me, though. Yeah. So you've seen him. I have not. Again, I still have a lot to discover in this game. I've really just scratched the surface of Hades 2. But it was enough to already make it worth the money that I would have spent to buy the game. So again, there you go. It's Hades 2, only available for PC now, but eventually coming to all consoles as well. Next up. I feel like, Matt, this has been the year of pleasant surprises. Like, there have been like 4 or 5 games this year where I was like, oh, I'll give this a try. I'm probably not going to like it. And then I ended up loving it. And I've just discovered another one. And this, to me, may be the least likely of them all. And this game is called Little Kitty, Big City. I know you're probably looking at the name of this, and you're like, Shane is on crack. Like, what's he talking about? This game is it's a little bit like a Metroidvania. You play as a black cat. The game starts, and this game does have an opening cinematic. And you're this little black cat sitting on the windowsill in this high-rise apartment complex. You go to stretch, you stretch too much, and you fall. And you fall all the way down to the ground. And the objective of the game is to get your butt back up to your owner's house at the top of the apartment complex. And it turns into, I guess, a little bit like a Metroidvania. It's one of those games where there's like a labyrinthine level design. This game is all in 3D. And it folds in over itself And you have to increase the cat's abilities over time to access new areas and keep climbing higher. Now, how that works typically is there are fish located around the area, and you have to find the fish and eat the fish, and that will give your cat the ability to climb just a little bit higher. And by the end of the game, I think there's 4 total fish that you need to collect, and you'll need all 4 of them to ultimately make that climb back up to the apartment. Now, you may be asking, first of all, I just want to say, Matt, this game makes you feel like you're a cat more than any other game I've ever played. What was the other cat game from a couple years ago? Stray. This makes you feel more like being a cat than Stray.
I imagine you don't get the cybernetic enhancements in this
you
one.
do not. This plays it close to realism, basically. You really are just a black cat. And really the only abilities that you have, you can swat things, you can jump, and what else? You can, there's, these emotes, basically. You can stretch, and you can, take a nap, do, other cat things. But for the most part, the controls are very simple. The way the platforming works is you hold the jump button, the little white paws show up, and then you use the left stick to move the paws where you want them. Then you release the jump button, and the cat will jump to where the paws are. Now, again, the main objective of this game is getting back up to the top of your apartment complex. And as you can see, it takes place, I don't know if it's in Tokyo, but it appears to be that it takes place in Japan in general. It is an open world game, but the open world is very small. Even smaller than, the quote-unquote open world in Ghostwire Tokyo. It's even smaller than that. But, again, it's everything folds in over itself. So there's lots of points in this game where you're up on a little perch or whatever, and you can see a bunch of what they call shinies. And the shinies gate the game, basically. There's basically just junk that you find as a cat, and you take the junk and you sell it to different characters that you run into, and then they will give you abilities that help you make progress through the game. Another thing that you collect in this game are feathers. So eventually you're going to see me hunting birds. And I know that seems disturbing. And you do stalk them and creep up on them and then pounce on them. But when you pounce on them, they get away. But you get 1 feather. And the feathers become another gate in the game to give you access to new areas and new abilities and things like that. And that's basically how the game works. So, you can see this cat hates water. So they use water to gate it. If you step in it, it almost, shocks you and makes you jump back. There are dogs located to block off certain areas. You have to find a bone and take the bone and drop it into their bowl, and then you can access those areas. So, again, it is a lot like a Metroidvania. You can see those green vines back there behind the crow, or you can see them all the way through the level. Those are what are gated by the fish. So the more you can climb, the higher you can go up in the vines. So that's why you have to keep eating the fish, basically, to increase your climbing ability so you can get higher up in the vines and get up to new levels of the open world. And the rest of it is just walking around the world acting like a cat. You can do goofy stuff. You can, attack people's ankles and they'll fall down. There's some objectives in the game where, a character will be like, I need a cell phone. So you go and you track down a human that's carrying a cell phone. You attack their ankles. They fall down. They drop the phone. You pick up the phone and run off with it. Take it to the person who needs it. You can attract birds.
That person gets arrested for having a stolen cell phone later.
Well, it's not. It's other animals that you're doing the work for, basically. So you can do that. You can deliver stuff to them. You can also get them to drop food. And if they drop food, you can pick it up and take it someplace and put it down on the ground. And that attracts birds. So the birds will come down and start eating the food, and then they're easier to catch and get more feathers. There's all this little stuff. There's these nap pads located throughout the whole game. The coolest thing about it is at the end, I'm like, I have one more nap pad. I can't find it. The final nap pad is the pad at home. And I got home, and I'm like, there's the final nap pad. But there aren't that many things to collect. There's the nap pads, and there's the feathers and stuff like that. But it's not a bloated game at all. It keeps it very simple. This game, I finished it in 4 hours, 5 hours. I started it, and I was like, I'll probably play a couple hours of this, and then maybe I'll just mention it offhand on GameFace. I got completely sucked into this game and finished the game. I don't know what other people are scoring this, but I have been pleasantly surprised by Little Kitty Big City. It's just I love cats. I know you do too. And again, you feel like a cat. Obviously the people who made this game love cats just like I do and like you do. Because you can just see their love for felines in every part of this game. The cats do all the stuff in this that you want them to do. They're just, it's frisky, it's finicky, it does crazy stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, humans will react to them one moment, they'll be like, oh, and they'll stop and try to pet you, and then you can nuzzle up to them. Sometimes they get mad at you and they try to run you over. Or sometimes, like, there's certain areas that are guarded by humans, and they're on guard. And, like, the other big part of this is hats. I don't know why, but they decided to make hats like the big collectible thing. Like, eventually, you get to the point where you've already spent all of the shinies that you can on stuff that's important to the game, and the rest of the shinies are just used to buy hats from, like, vending machines or whatever. And the hats actually matter sometimes. Like, there's a construction zone in here where there's, like, an angry construction guy because you've been walking through their wet concrete. If you put on the construction hat and go into the construction zone, he'll leave you alone. And so there are actual, like, gameplay tie-ins to the whole hat mechanic in this that I found was pretty clever. I ended up, like, there's like 80 hats in the game. I think I ended up with like 30 or 40. There's boxes that you can jump into. Like, it's just, again, if you've ever wanted to play a game that made it really feel like here, like, hey, play ball with me. And they just randomly are like, okay, I'll just kick the ball, like, with you. It just really makes you feel like you're just this little cat, big world. Some of the people love you. Some of the people hate you, just like all stray cats. You never know how humans are going to react to you, what they're going to do. Like you saw, that woman just kicked the soccer ball for you. It just is fun. It's very lighthearted. It's a laid-back game. You can just sit back and play and enjoy. There's no dying in the game, so you don't have to worry about being killed by anything.
Frame rate seems a little rough.
The frame rate is really rough. Like, really rough. There was a couple times in this game, Matt, where it just flat out, it's awesome. You can make the people fall in and take their phone and run off.
It's like an Untitled Cat game.
There's so many moments playing this game that I laughed, which doesn't happen to me with video games hardly at all anymore. Just random moments where stuff just lined up just right, and it's just like this funny thing happened. But yes, the frame rate in this is terrible, which I don't know how or why, because again, the city isn't all that big. But yeah, there are times, Matt, literally where the game almost stopped a couple times. Like if you turn at the wrong time and turn the camera at the same time, it'll just like flatten out. And I played this on Xbox Series X. It is, as you see in the lower third there, it's available for everything, but it is also on Game Pass. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, just download it and play it. I definitely recommend it for that. In fact, I would recommend getting Game Pass for a month just to play this game, because you're going to find 4 or 5 other things that you want to play too. And there's nothing else like it. This is another one of those games that just kind of came out of nowhere. Now you're seeing me activating the fast travel. So even though the world isn't all that big, it does eventually give you like 6 or 7 different fast travel points. There's a lot of discovery in this, a lot of moments where you're like, hey, I've been here like 3 or 4 times before. I never noticed that little nook there. Oh, that gets me up to the roofs to a new area of the world that I haven't been to before. That's the type of stuff that this game does. And then ultimately the goal is just to climb all the way up to the top, get back to your home, and plant your little cat butt right back on your cat pad and call it a day. So I'm really surprised you didn't play this, Matt.
I installed it, but I didn't get to it.
Yeah. If you're a cat lover, this game is a no-brainer. It just is. It makes you, like, even when you jump from high, you'll never die from jumping up high, but the cat will do that crazy spread leg thing where they kind of, like, almost, like, glide down to the ground. Like, they just nailed being a cat in this game, and I just don't feel like any other game has done that to this point. So I had a ton of fun with Little Kitty, Big City. Again, it's available for everything, and it's on Game Pass. If you love cats, give it a play. I definitely don't think you'll regret it. I think you'll love it just as much as I did. Do you have any questions, Matt?
Not really.
No?
Not really.
Do you think you'll play it?
Yeah, although I'm curious if, looking at how it performs, I'm like, maybe I'll see if it's on Game Pass on PC.
It probably will run much better on your rig. I'm pretty much guarantee it'll run better on your rig. Although Xbox Series X is no slouch, and it's still literally...
No, it sounds like there's issues.
Something going on there.
Specifically issues on the Series X.
Maybe. The other thing, too, is it appears that this game at one time was made, I think, maybe as like a Switch exclusive, because there are all kinds of like Nintendo jokes in here. You go into this one room, there's a GameCube sitting underneath the TV, and that's a little weird to be played on Xbox and see a GameCube in the game. So I don't know if originally this was supposed to be a Switch exclusive. It is available for Switch, but it's also available for everything. Vincent says it is on PC Game Pass, so there you go. And Vincent also says it has a 77 on OpenCritic. That sounds about right. The one thing I would say, I do have some criticisms of it. The gameplay does feel kind of crappy at times. Like, there's lots of times where the cat will just jump off a wall Like, even if you don't even touch the stick, it's just like, I don't want to be here, boing, and just jump, and you have to like climb all the way back up. Some of the controls for the jumping are erratic. So sometimes, like, you'll put the paw somewhere, and the cat won't jump all the way to the paws. It'll jump, like, halfway. When you're hunting the birds, and you're stalking behind the birds, and the icon comes up to jump, sometimes you jump, and the cat just jumps straight up in the air, and the bird flies away. Like, there's little quirks like that, and I think that's probably why the Metacritic's down to, like, a 77. If they had ironed out a lot of those quirks, I think it probably would have a higher Metacritic. But even then, a 77 is pretty damn high for a game like this. So I had a lot of fun with it. Another pleasant surprise for 2024, and there's already been several for me. I'm sure for a lot of people, Helldivers 2 has been a pleasant surprise. That's kind of been the theme for 2024, and this just kind of piles on. So there you go. That's Little Kitty, Big City. And again, it's available for pretty much everything. Next up is time for our sneaker of the week. Well, let's get to it. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right, I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh. For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off. That's right, go to New York Sneaker Society.co/sifted. That's nysneakersociety.co/sifted. There are a bunch of different options there for what you want to buy. One thing I would recommend is if you're not looking to spend a lot of money, just get the wipes. So after I cleaned up all my shoes, they also sent me a box of the shoe wipes, and I just put that up on the counter in my bathroom. And when I'm ready to go out and my shoes are looking a little dirty, I just pull out one of those wipes. They're almost like the, I don't know if they make these still, Matt. Remember those like acne pads they used to make back in the day?
Yeah, they still do.
They still make those?
I don't think Stridex is still around. But
is Stridex gone?
I don't know.
Wow.
I haven't actually used any of those for decades.
Well, they're kind of like that. They're just like these little pads, and they've got some special cleaning solution in them because they actually suds up when you use them. They're not just like rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol or whatever. But if you just have one of those on your counter of your bathroom and you're about to go out to get dinner or go out on a date or whatever, just take one of those out of there, just do a quick wipe on your shoes, and if you've already done like the full cleaning or at least clean your shoes up, it does an amazing job. There are really packages for anybody to buy, no matter what you're looking to spend, if you go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted. And the other thing, too, is make sure you use that URL because the ad says you guys get 10% off. With that URL, you actually get 15% off. And if you're talking about some of the bigger packages, like the big kits where they're like $40 or whatever, those savings are significant. So again, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted, SIFTD. Make sure you use that URL to get your full 15% off. And one of the cool things that we do with this sponsorship is that we do a sneaker of the week where we find a smaller game that you guys are interested in that is kind of making some waves on Sifted as far as traffic is concerned. And I teased this week's sneaker of the week earlier in the show because you guys are all over this game and you should be. And the sneaker of the week for episode 387 is a game called Quest Master. Matt, have you heard about this game?
No.
So
like I've seen some stuff like people like tangentially chatting about it, like saying it's like Zelda Maker.
Basically. It is the Legend of Zelda Maker that Nintendo refuses to give us. I don't know why, but I think Nintendo went on the record saying no, we're probably never going to make a Zelda Maker. Which seems silly, but this smaller indie studio has stepped in to fill the void. And the cool thing about this game, too...
I don't want to remind us of when Zelda games weren't giant, meandering nonsense.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously, it helps you create top-down Zelda games in this, which, go back to the 16-bit era, and or even the 8-bit era. And the thing about this, though, is that it's not just a game tool where you build stuff. It has a huge single-player campaign where you have a 3-person party and you play through a whole story with a campaign, and then it mixes in the world-building elements. However, if you're just interested in building your own Zelda game, you can do that too. And in fact, there's a whole interface online where you can share, people rate it. I mean, again, it really is super The Legend of Zelda Maker that Nintendo refuses to make. You can see in these clips all the tools that they give you to make games. It's pretty amazing. This game is going into early access for PC on May 29th. There's a free demo of this game on Steam right now. And one thing I will say is it is only announced for PC right now. My guess is that is going to change very quickly. I mean, releasing this for Switch is a no-brainer. And I'm guessing that's going to happen eventually.
Nintendo allows it.
Yeah, it might, it may not, honestly. I think here's what I would say. Nintendo won't allow it if it knows it's making its own. Mm-hmm. If it knows it's never going to make its own Zelda creator, then I think it'll let it go. We'll see. But my guess is this will eventually be on all consoles. And again, I think if you're watching this footage, just look for the elements of it, not necessarily the actual game itself. Just watch for the different tools that you'll be able to use to build your own game and build your own levels. And I think you'll see that you'll be able to make your very own awesome Legend of Zelda game with Quest Master. So thanks to New York Sneaker Society for allowing us to spend a little bit of time in each episode of GameFace to profile some of the smaller games that you guys should be keeping an eye on. And again, if you were a big fan of Super Mario Maker, I think this game is a no-brainer. Again, it goes into early access on May 29th, so just a couple more weeks to wait. It does appear to be a lot like Hades 2, like fully featured and a pretty full game in early access. And they'll just keep piling features on from there. And again, you can be part of that whole creative process of making the game better. Again, the game is called Quest Master for PC. And with that, it's time to get on to our final topic for today's episode. We're going to talk about a game that Matt played this week, and a game that has been getting, again, sky-high review scores, Game of the Year contender some people are talking about. It's a game called Animal Well. And Matt, here's my first question for you. Does animal well mean it's like a well full of animals, like a water well that has a ton of animals, or does it mean animals doing well?
This is the first one.
The first one.
Yeah, you're basically in a... talking about no story. There is literally no story in this game. Like, what you're looking at here is the opening. Those flames go out, and then you appear in the game. That's it. And you got to get to the flames that are in the corners of the map, basically. You play a little blob, who's sort of like if Kirby had no power instead of ultimate power.
Is it like Super Meat Boy?
No, it's a Metroid game.
Okay.
Except you can't really attack.
Is there challenging platforming in this?
It's basically all it is.
Oh, okay.
It is a Metroid game in which you're trying to find objects that let you progress, but to progress you need to do crazy platforming.
Okay.
Which starts not very crazy and as you progress gets more and more so. Mm-hmm. It is one of those games where, it's got a reputation already of being very hard. It is not... it's not hard in that you're going to get killed a lot. It's hard in that way of, I know what it wants me to do, and now I have to do it. Mm. And in particular, the bosses or whatever, the equivalents of bosses in this can get pretty annoying. Because it's they're not killing you. It's pretty hard. Actually, I haven't died barely at all. And the one time I died several times is because I didn't realize I was supposed to do something a different way that would not unleash the thing that was killing me.
Mm. What's the animal well part?
There's just a lot of animals down there.
That's it. Okay. But how do they interact with the game, the animals? What's their purpose?
For the most part, they're just there.
Okay.
And some animals will attack you.
Mm-hmm. I saw a dog
most prominently you'll run into dogs that chase you.
Shake you around when they catch you, yeah.
But eventually, again, that only does 1 damage to you. If you have 4 health, you pick up fruits to replenish your health.
And you can get past those pretty. I mean, you can.
Some of the details in this is pretty cool, like how the vines move. Like
that's a cool detail. Here's the thing that matters.
Oh, it does.
There are things that won't go through the vines.
Oh.
That you have, and other things that will, and so you have to know where the vines are.
You can use them to escape, basically.
No.
Oh, you can't?
Like things that will block your escape.
Oh, got you.
Things you're using for traversal will get stopped by the vines.
I see.
So they're not just there for fun. So like here you find firecrackers. So like early on you see like there was that ghost that was in there, that one screen. Then you use the firecracker on the ghost, and the ghost disperses. And it's that kind of thing.
You use the firecrackers to light up the levels too, right? Because there's like dark sections.
You can, but it doesn't last.
Yeah.
So...
but it gives you a glimpse.
It gives you a glimpse, and a lot of times you can find matches that let you light candles. And say that. One thing that's interesting about this game is that changes to each area are permanent. So if you light something or open a door or leave something somewhere, it will be there forever.
Little kitties like that too. Like if you left a cell phone on the ground, that cell phone laid there until you finished the game.
Yeah,
I'm surprised by that.
And that includes things where, like, the kind of the traditional Metroid or Zelda thing where you're like, I'm gonna crank this thing and it's gonna slowly uncrank and lower the thing. You have to get there soon enough. Like there have been times when I did that, got through a thing, I got killed or jumped around, came around back around the loop or something. And when I came back to that room, it was still lowering down.
Oh.
The consistency is very impressive.
That's cool.
And so you'll see there those 4 things. Those are kind of the 4 like god animals or something that are related to the 4 flames you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. And what's the objective of the game? Are you trying to collect the 4 flames?
Trying to get to the 4 flames, but there's actually more stuff after that I probably shouldn't tell you about.
Okay.
There's actually a lot more to the game than just that. It's kind of got that inscription thing where it's like, oh, you thought the game was about this, but it's really this kind of thing. It's like almost, if you're going to be an indie darling, you almost have to do that. So you see there's the map.
Very Metroid-ish.
Early on, one of the most important objects you can get is the stamp, which lets you mark the map for things. And at some point, you'll see in here, maybe or maybe not, that so one of the big gating things in the game are eggs. The secret egg. You saw them find a secret egg in the second screen there.
Yeah.
So there's a room like is actually marked with an egg on the map, and the more eggs you collect, they all appear there on these little shelves, and you get a certain number, and it opens doors in there, and that's sort of your gating mechanism. So you're kind of looking for these secret eggs everywhere, and some of them are pretty hard to get to. Some of them are usually it's pretty obvious where something is. Like you see the closed doors, and you kind of can tell what things are. And kind of the progression is about finding items that become equipment items and figuring out how to use them. And there's almost always another way to use an item beyond its normal function that is generally not necessary to complete the puzzles, but they're going to get you. You're going to let you complete those puzzles a lot faster.
Okay.
So like early on you find a wand, and early on you'll find like there's these bubbles, and you can jump on the bubbles, and you can land on a bubble. And a lot of times you'd expect you land on a bubble, that bubble's going to pop, right? And it does pop when you jump off it, but it doesn't pop until you jump off it.
Oh, interesting.
But it does lower as it goes down because you're heavy.
Yeah.
Or unless you're in an updraft, which will go up. So there's things where you got to hop across these bubbles and stuff. When you get the wand creates a bubble.
Oh.
So all of a sudden you can create a bubble to jump on.
Your own platform.
So I got okay, so now I can get up here. That makes sense. But very quickly you learn, if you're experimenting, it only makes one bubble at a time, and when you do it again, the bubble that was already in existence disappears.
Pops.
Here's the thing. If you jump off the bubble, immediately hit the wand while you're on your way up, you can jump onto the next bubble.
I hate games
and you
like
can
that.
get all the way. Now, you never need to do that to actually succeed in the platforming challenges, but if you can do it, you can cut out whole screens of the game.
I see that. Because you don't have to worry about manipulating all the platforms. And
like that. One of those. That's the egg room there. So that's where you gather all your eggs, and those doors on the other side will open as you get more and more eggs. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of one of your key ways of. There's stuff back there that's important. So it's that kind of thing. There's a frisbee you get, which is like a disc, and that's how you get. That's how you distract the dogs.
You can flip switches with it too, right?
You can flip switches with it. The other thing is you can ride it.
You can ride it.
You can jump on it, and you just spin on it. And
it's like a platform.
Yeah, you can't control it, and if it hits something that destroys that, it won't go through vines.
Right.
But if it hits something, you'll fall, and if you jump off it, it just disappears. But that's a way to traverse too. So like
interesting.
And as far as I've found, I've never needed to do that, but it's been something. You get an achievement for doing it, but like it's just something you can use. Oh, there's the disc.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that.
Recommend what?
Taking that disc.
Yeah. So what's up with the ghost?
That's, I don't know.
You haven't figured out is it a mystery in the game that you're trying to figure out?
I guess. I mean, I don't know if there's any actual story to speak of.
Oh, really? There's just a random cat ghost just appears.
Yeah, well, there's a statue of that ghost earlier on, so in that room with the 4 statues.
Yeah.
So I think there's sort of some kind of guardians or something. But there is a way to get that disc without unleashing that ghost.
Oh, so. Is there are there a lot of chase sequences in this game?
No.
No?
I mean, not unless you fuck up.
Oh, okay. It felt like there were, like watching some of the
As far as I can tell, there is no way to get away from that cat ghost.
Oh, really?
Like, I had to put the disc back.
Oh. So basically they're teaching you, like, there's another way to get this disc.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of offensive options. Like, you can throw the frisbee, but it doesn't, as far as I've seen, it doesn't really hurt anything. Mm-hmm. It can distract the dogs because they see a frisbee and they're not going to attack you. You can get past them.
Yeah.
But you also just jump over them. Like, the dogs are not super dangerous. You know, so it kind of
depends. Only take 1 health, so.
Yeah, well, also, you don't get hurt by touching them. So you can kind of run past them as long as they don't realize you're there. Before. They're a little slow in the uptake.
Okay.
They're dogs.
So they only hurt you if they snatch you.
But you never know. Like, sometimes you saw there, like, they're trying to get in the little crevices and they can't get in there. Some dogs can climb in the holes with you, and then you're like, oh shit! Like,
I saw some footage where like a bird's head went down into like the maze underneath it, and his head was like going through the maze or whatever.
Yeah, there's some weird.
There's some trippy stuff in this game. Just watching the trailers, like some of the stuff and I'll run it now. Some of the stuff in the trailer, I was like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, I can't wait to talk to Matt about this game. It just seems very bizarre. But the other thing I would say, Matt, is it feels like the game looks very samey.
Yeah, you're not really dealing with a lot of environment shifts.
Yeah. It all kind of looked the same. Very cool parts of it.
So the thing on this game is, like, it's not really a game that I've only played for like a couple hours, and it's not really a game that you play for huge stretches of time, because pretty quickly, most of the time, you'll play for a while, and you'll come up on a bunch of dead ends, and you won't really know what you need to do, because it's a lot of puzzle solving.
Yeah.
You don't really need to know what you need to do, or you will know what you need to do, and you're just not in the frame of mind to do that platforming challenge properly right now. And you come back to it and kind of...
You spending a lot of time looking at the map in this game?
Yeah, the map is very important. You come back and basically like bang your head against the things you haven't figured out yet, and eventually you make a breakthrough, and then you play a little more, and then I start... It's not a game that works well for a deadline.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. It's more of a nice thing to have around and sort of like dip into it when you want to. Mm-hmm. And there is more to do after the credits. You know, it's not over when you think it's over. You know, don't look things up about it if you can help it, because you'll spoil sort of the different things that happen in it. Because there is more to it than just what you see. But I can't really spoil that, and I'm not done with it by any stretch of the imagination. But like, yeah, and it's like I mean, look, I don't understand why this has a 9.2 on Metacritic. Like,
it's really crazy.
I mean, I don't dislike it. It's fine, but it's like it's very twee, and it's very indie, and it's very. There's a super Meat Boy feel to the control of the character. That's what I asked
about it at first, yeah.
Which I don't particularly like very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of a little fast, jumps a little further than you want him to.
Yeah,
kind of
you're just controlling a ball, basically. Yeah.
And it's fine. It's not really my like it won't be on my Game of the Year shortlist. It's just sort of. It's like that clever thing. It's like that clever indie thing where it's like, oh, it's like Inscription, or...
It doesn't feel that clever to me, though. Like
it is once you sort of get into how they're sort of messing with how the things work. When I realized how the wand worked, I was like, oh, that's clever. Yeah. Like, the fact that almost everything you find has another use that you have to figure out by experimenting with it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The twists later on as you get into more of like opening more of the egg doors and finding the flames, as you're like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Kind of like that Inscription thing where you're like, this isn't what I thought it was originally.
Yeah.
But I can't tell anybody about it because no one else has played. Like it's worth experiencing.
How much did it cost?
I think it's $22.
Okay, on like that seems about right.
On a launch, I think it's like normally $25. I think it's like a launch week.
Yeah.
Like discount on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it, you may think that that's too much, but there is a lot of game here. The question is sort of like, do you want to play that much of it? You know what I mean?
You're right.
it's not really setting my world on fire. It's it's no Balatro.
Yeah. I read the reviews for this and I was confused. I'm reading the reviews, I'm watching the video reviews, and then they get to the end with the score, and I'm like, how did you get there? Like, I've just been puzzled.
It's just the thing where it's like, oh, there's more here. The game is different than you think it is once you get to a certain point. It's that Inscription thing.
So it's the thing where you can't talk about why the game is cool.
Kinda, yeah.
I hear you. Okay.
I mean, I don't care. I would, but otherwise people just scream about it. And that's,
Yeah. Let them discover it themselves.
I mean, I know what happens because I fucking looked it up. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably never going to see it myself.
Right.
I know and it is a cool thing. There are cool things. If I had the patience to get to them, I'd probably like them. But like, it's just
But part of the journey is getting there. I mean, and if the journey isn't fun,
and there's a lot of stuff. It's more freeform than your average Metroid game. It's like it's not like go. Here's the thing I haven't explored in the area here, so I go further along here and I'll figure out what I need to do or I'll beat this place. It's not that straightforward. It's like there's a bunch of different places you can go at any given moment in the game, and you got to figure out what you need to do or find to then open what you need to do or find. And sometimes, I mean, actually the most tedious part was like at one point I'd gone pretty much everywhere I could go early on, and the only place I had left to go was one of the, like, open a door in the egg room, but I'd only found 5 eggs, and I needed 8 eggs to open it. So I just had to go find 3 secret eggs I didn't see before, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna look those up. I don't care. I'm not digging around through this whole area.
I've been getting that way with a couple things anymore. I'm just like, it's just not worth the hassle anymore.
Yeah.
Like, the payoff's not gonna be worth it. I've played too many games. I know. Like, you just start to figure it out after so many years of playing games. So this is available for PC, PS5, and Switch, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And would you recommend it at that price?
Like
it's for a very particular
It's
player.
a very... I mean, I think someone who is going to be into this is going to know it when they see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Watching that B-roll,
because I already saw early on there was the hype about, like, oh, this is one of the new things, hot new thing, Animal Well's coming next week, and I looked it up on Steam to keep an eye on it. I'm like, what? I turned into Jason Bateman in Arrested Development. Her?
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that way reading and watching the reviews. I was like, really? Okay.
And I kind of get it, but it's like...
You've played it, I haven't, so I'll trust you.
It's sort of that thing with, like, Little Kitty, Big City, where it's like, okay, this is a pleasant surprise and there's some cool stuff in here. Not everything works. But like reading some of these reviews versus like IGN's review is just like a flawless masterwork of puzzle design and platforming genius, and I'm just like,
where
am I just completely out of the loop on this now? I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't it doesn't set my world on fire in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I felt that way about Super Meat Boy.
Yeah,
I was like, it's a hard platformer. Okay. I didn't understand what the big dust up was about that game either. So,
and I would say Super Meat Boy has stronger mechanics than this. I've missed a lot of platforms, and I don't think it does. It does that thing at in platformers. You have that thing where like you give the player a little leeway when they jump off, they go off the edge of something, that they can still sort of jump in midair a little bit. It's sort of how Insomniac considers that to be the key to making a platformer feel good. Yeah, and I think they're probably right about this. This game doesn't really have that, and there's a lot of times where I'd fall. And the falling doesn't, like, failing the platforming doesn't generally matter. It's not like Super Meat Boy where it's lethal. Like, generally you're going to fall in water, and falling in water doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
Eventually there are spikes, and there are places where, like, you're going to lose a life point, and you got to be more careful. But those are very obvious, and they, obviously later in the game they might get super hard, but so far it's been, like, relatively forgiving, and, like, the difficulty has been executing, not surviving.
Okay. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's Animal Well, again, for PC, PS5, and Switch. Vincent says it's also on PlayStation Plus Extra/Premium. So if you're paying for that higher tier of PlayStation Plus, it is a freebie on there that you can give it a go. Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't know. So it's another one of those...
So WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get.
Pretty much, but it's not. But also, what you're actually playing moment to moment, yes,
is. Okay.
It's just like, I don't know. It's another one of those situations where I'm just like, there's a whole contingent of people in this hobby that want something very different than I do. Mm-hmm. And there's moments where I'm just like,
or things are different for them that aren't different for you.
I'm like, am I the dumbass blockbuster goon? Like, do I just want to kill things with swords? And like the thing where I'm playing basically Kirby with a fear of heights is not working for me, you know?
That'll be on the back of the box. Kirby with a fear of heights. And it'll burn it on a CDR. Anyway.
But then I'm like, no, because like one of my favorite games of the year is Balatro, and that's not a hack and slash weirdo game. Like,
no, definitely not you. Definitely not you. There you go. That is Animal Well. And now it's time for... That's right. It's time for Name That Game Tune, where I play 5 audio samples from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Keil. Good luck, by the way. Couple things before
so far it hasn't been a problem.
No, you're right. Yeah, they're actually really good at this. You guys are amazing at this. I do want to mention a couple things before we get going. So, first of all, this segment has been and is sponsored by SoundWizardry.com. They create amazing audio for amazing video games. If you're developing games and you need an audio team to jump on it, they can do it. They have worked on several Game of the Year candidates just last year. But I do want to share a special message today, and that is that next week's episode of GameFace will be the last episode that has Name That Game Tune. Because unfortunately, because Sound Wizardry lost a huge contract due to layoffs, they are no longer going to be able to sponsor GameFace going forward. So, first thing I wanted to say is thank you to SoundWizardry.com. They have been an amazing sponsor. I tossed crazy ideas to them about how we could do the sponsorship, and they were down with pretty much any idea that I came up with. That's how we ended up with Name That Game Tune. And they are just incredible people. Like, it just sucks that they were affected by these crazy, and in their case, they had a nut job, completely just cancel a project that they had a contract for. Tons of people lost their jobs because of this asshole. And that happened with SoundWizardry.com. And so they have an opening right now. They need work. They're ready to do work. So if you are a developer or a publisher looking for someone to do amazing audio on your game, or honestly, on anything that you're working on, go to SoundWizardry.com. But unfortunately, next week will be the last episode for Name That Game Tune. Now, I'm bringing this up, one, because I want to thank Sound Wizardry because they've been amazing and they're awesome people. But two, because in the last episode of Name That Game Tune next week, there is a big prize. And actually, the prize isn't even coming from Sound Wizardry. It's coming from a sifter. Next week's prize will be a game that you guys will all want to win. I promise you that. So if you're watching the archive of this show, you're not on the stream, try to be on the stream next week because there is a big prize coming for the last episode of Name That Game Tune. And again, I just want to thank Glenn and everybody at Sound Wizardry. They've been amazing. And I really hope that somebody watching this or listening to this are like, you know what? We do have a gig and we do need people and you want to work with amazing people. Hire SoundWizardry.com and then maybe they can come back and sponsor this again and we can keep doing it. The other thing I want to say too is like, so this is ending, so to speak. We can keep doing the audio version of it, although I feel a little weird doing it without Sound Wizardry sponsoring it. I'll just be honest with you. Like, this is a thing that we worked on together and we came up with together, and so I would like to only do it if they're going to sponsor it. But if you guys really like the audio version more than the screenshot version, I will consider keep doing Name That Game Tune instead of just Name That Game. Give us feedback in the chat right now. You can do it. You can do it on the archive, on SIFTD, on YouTube, or whatever. Let us know how you feel about it. And as always, I listen to you guys, and I take your opinions into account when I make any decision about anything we do. So again, I just want to thank Sound Wizardry. I thank all our sponsors, LS Cream, New York Secret Society, Sound Wizardry. We actually have a new sponsor lined up that's going to come in here pretty soon. Right now we're having problems because the hack is still just killing us. Like, you guys probably have realized, our donation portal still hasn't come back up online. And we use that for our sponsors to pay, and you guys donate and tip us there. And we've lost so much money because of this hack. It is insane. And so that's a big problem. We're trying to get that portal back up. And anyway, it's just, this hack has been a disaster. I know I don't talk about it anymore because I got tired of talking about it. It hasn't gone away. Like, we're not being hacked. We just can't fix the problem. It was supposed to be fixed before the end of March. We're in mid-May. It's still not fixed. So I'm desperate here. I'll be honest with you. I'm really kind of reaching the end of my rope with this stuff. But anyway, you let us know how you feel about doing Name That Game Tune, if you want to keep doing it this way, or if you're like me and you want to press what for respects?
F.
Press F. If you want to press F for respect for Sound Wizardry, and we go back to the screenshot version, I'm totally cool with that too. But again, I just want to say thank you, Sound Wizardry. You guys have been amazing. I really hope you guys can come back. I really feel like this was a great sponsorship that worked well for both sides, and I hope we can continue. But anyway, don't forget about that prize for next week's episode. With that, it's time to get on with Name That Game. A couple things before we get going. If you've won this calendar year, do not play. You can only win once per calendar year. Number 2, the chat goes into slow mode when we start, meaning you can only send one chat message every 60 seconds. So do not spam the chat. You will lose. I can pretty much guarantee it. The other thing, too, is either you need to play PC games or someone you know needs to play PC games. And I will say, giving the pricing for this has been inelegant because we have to be friends on Steam. So what happens is you give me your Steam name, and then I go and send you a friend request, and then we become friends, and then I can gift you the game. You can't just gift somebody games on Steam. You have to be friends with them first. So that's been a little bit of a pain in the ass, but you guys have fought through it. We fought through it together. And so anyway, just so you know, you need to play PC games or have somebody who loves PC games. Otherwise, don't play, because what you're going to win is a PC game code. However, that may change next week. A little hint for you. And with that, I think we're ready. Mitchell Ness says, can existing winners of this year play next week? No, unfortunately not. I'm sorry. It's still only one per calendar year, because we're going to keep doing this. Like, I'm going to start paying out of my own pocket again for the game codes. Basically, Sound Wizardry was paying for those codes while they were sponsoring it, and now it's just going to come out of my pocket. But we're going to keep doing it. So you can still only win once per calendar year. Sorry, Mitchell Ness. Are you ready, Matt? Let me get the volume turned up for you here so you can hear it. And that's the same level it's always at. Is that good for you?
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, we're about ready to go. Are you guys ready? Matt, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Here's the first voice sample for Name That Game Tune for episode 387 in 3, 2, 1. Helldivers 2, no, Fruit Eater.
Jet Force Gemini.
Not Jet Force Gemini. Not whatever that was from Eric Carmen. Is that Pac-Man?
That kind of looks like Pac-Man.
Is that supposed to be Pac-Man? Starfield, no.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
No.
Or
look,
Fallen Order.
Erebus Jones guessed at the same time you did. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. But no, it's not Jedi Survivor. Fallen Order, no. 2 people guessed Jedi Survivor. Look at this. That's crazy.
It kind of sounds like BD.
Wow, it's not. Titanfall 2, no. Metroid Dread, no. Fallen Order, no. Knights of the Old Republic, no. Lots of Star Wars guesses. That sound must have really triggered people. Knights of the Old Republic, no. That sound definitely triggered people to Star Wars. Apex Legends, no. Star Wars Battlefront, no. That's the Pac-Man from Pac-Man 2, the weird adventure game. Oh, he's talking about that emoji that came up, or that icon. Ratchet and Clank 1, no. All right. Any more guesses before we go to the second sample? Going once. Going twice. Okay. Here comes the second one. In 3, 2, 1. Outriders, no. From Cantano. Fallout 4, no. Fortnite, no. Overwatch, no. Baldur's Gate 3, no. I think the next one will give it away. We'll see. Any more guesses? I know you guys are being careful because you don't want to guess wrong. And then Dishonored, no. High on Life, no. Good guess, though. Never would have guessed someone would guess that one. Apex Legends, no. Fable 3, no. Outer Wilds, no. Killzone Shadowfall, no. Borderlands, no. Golden Axe, no. Wow. Blast from the Past from Evil Oni 5. All right, any more guesses? Going once. Going twice. All right, we're going to make it to the third one. I do think this one will give it away, so listen very carefully. Here it comes. In 3, 2, 1. Eric Cartmanis, if you think you know it, why don't you send us a DM with the name of the game if you think you know it? Splatoon, no. Battleborn, no. Gears of War, no. I'm surprised someone didn't get it. Splatoon 3, no. FIFA 99, nope. StarCraft, no. Dragon Age Inquisition, that would be pretty clever of me, wouldn't it? But it's wrong. And they're finally Emperor Dread with the Body Harvest. Someday, buddy. Someday you will win with Body Harvest, I promise you. Or somebody else will get it before you.
Oddworld Stranger's Wrath?
Nope. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, no. Mercs, no. Starfield, no. MDK2, no. Lots of great guesses. Pow World, no. Wow. I thought you guys would get it with that one. I guess not. I know, but I'd rather win the big prize next week. No, Cartmenes, you can send us a DM. I just want to see if you actually really know it. Don't put it in the chat, because it'll give it away. The Division, no. Okay, any other guesses? Going once. Halo Reach, no. Good guess. Going once. Going. Red Dead Redemption 2, nope. Some stragglers coming in here. Haze, no. Wow. Link's so good pulling out the haze. Nope, sorry.
I guess it does kind of sound like one of the Warthog turrets.
A little bit, yeah. Halo Infinite, no. Right on cue.
So many Halos.
All right, you guys didn't get it from that. I'm surprised. I really thought you would, Tetris. All right, here's the fourth one. In 3, 2, Resistance Fall of Man, no. In 3, 2, 1. We might get to the fifth one. The fifth one will definitely give it away. I made sure of it. Hades, no. That would also be clever of me, wouldn't it? But no. Any other guesses? SOCOM, no. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, no. Borderlands 3, no. Aw, snap. A Random Frenchman, the game. Nope. Fallout, no. Stubbs the Zombie, no. You guys are pulling them out. Bastion, no. That would also be clever of me to pull out another Supergiant game. But no, unfortunately. Stubbs the Zombie, wow. Luigi's Mansion, no. Vanquish, no. Beyond Good and Evil, no. Sea of Thieves, no. Odin 5, thank you for Twitch Prime. Yes. Leisure Suit Larry, no. Tales from the Borderlands, no. No, 2 guesses from Tales from the Borderlands. Interesting. Right in a row. Nope, it's not it. Oh, snap. We're going to the fifth one. We made it to, what, the fourth one last week?
Yeah.
I told you guys I was going to start making it harder, and we'd start making it farther, and so far it's worked. Okay. Any more guesses? Going once. Going twice. Bug Snatch, no. Good guess, though. Rage, no. Now going once. Going twice. Okay, get your fingers ready. Here's the fifth one. In 3, 2, 1.
Bebuk, Yowotulua. The child could have been anyone.
X-Files, the video game, no.
No.
You didn't get it from the fifth one?
No.
No? Anyone else? You got guesses? Baldur's Gate 1, no. Wow, you guys aren't going to get it. Messiah, no. Baldur's Gate 2, no. Diablo with Guns, no. Stanley Parable, no. Avatar, no. Just let the guesses fly now. This is the last one, man. You got nothing to lose. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, no. Far Cry Primal, no.
Far Cry Primal was my first thought on that, but then I realized that no one speaks English afterwards in any of that.
Bioshock Infinite, no. Dragon Quest 11, no. I gave you guys a voice sample, and it's not enough. Monkey Island, no. Crap. I finally stumped you guys. Finally.
Has that ever happened before?
With this, no. With Name That Game Tune, never. With Name That Game screenshots, like once. Destiny 2, no. You guys aren't going to get it. All right. Any last guesses? Tales of Kenzera, nope. Anthem, nope. Bastion again, no. Borderlands, nope. Grim Fandango, no. Battleborn, no. Although I'll say this, Battleborn's the closest guess so far. Mass Effect 3, no. Katamari Damacy, no. Yep, I think I got him, Eric Cartmenes. I think finally, we named that game tune. Diablo 3, no. All right, I think we got to call it. Battlefield, no. Dota 2, no. All right, we're going to call it in 3, 2.
Warcraft 3.
No. Tally's Principle, no. First time chat. What's up, man? Salmonella Noski? Is that what it is? Thank you, man. Thanks for checking us out, man. Come back. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Paladins, no. We got it! Squishy Muffin got it! No way! You got it! It's Biomutant! Awesome! Oh, you did it! How did you do that? That's it. It's over, guys. You can stop guessing. Somebody got it. It was Biomutant. So I didn't, in fact, stump you guys for the first time.
Yeah, you came pretty close.
Yes.
You could have called it before then.
I could have. Squishy
Easily.
Muffin, congratulations, man. Great job. You did get it. That's awesome, dude. Sweet. Great work. I didn't think anyone was going to get it. Squishy Muffin, you got it at the last minute. I'm wondering what made it come to your mind. Like, the narrator, I thought for sure would give it away.
Most people do not remember that game at all.
But the whole game is narrated by that guy. The whole game. These people remember crazy stuff. Like, they've blown my mind over and over again.
They remember stuff they like.
I guess.
Nobody liked Biomutant.
I mean, I've done bad games before. People still get them. Like, you guys are just awesome. And I'm just curious, Squishy, how did it come to you finally?
You're never going to see it if you don't scroll down.
No. The gun I thought would give it away, because that annoying gun that you used the whole way through that game, that was like the second or the third clue. Like, that gun is annoying. And I was like, people are going to remember that. They'll pick it out, no problem. Squishy says, he couldn't remember the name of the game. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Well, congratulations once again. That's freaking awesome. Great job. Send us a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire. You can send Sifted a DM on Twitter at Sifted Games. You can send me a DM on Sifted. I'm at Shane. Get at us any of those ways. Although you might want to include in your very first message your screen name for Steam, so I can just add you as a friend right away, so I can get you your game. So congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, I really thought I was going to get away with it there, Matt. It's like I finally did it. Like, I finally got them with Name That Game Tune. Before we get going, I just want to say, first of all, thanks to everybody on chat for showing up live. We're here every Tuesday at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. One other thing, if you want to support us, head to patreon.com/Sifted. That's SIFTD. We are supported pretty much 100% by Patreon. You can give us whatever you want, $1 a month, $1 million a month, whatever you want. You can pledge whatever you want. You get all our content early for just $4 a month. You get Pack Your Factor a week early. You get GameFace at least 3 days early. All our other content like 4 days early. Our exclusive periods are much longer than most Patreons, so you definitely get your money's worth there. And then if you don't have any money, just like the show wherever you're watching it, review the show wherever you're watching it, share it with your friends in your social media. There's tons of stuff that you can do to help us, even if you don't have any cash at all. As you see the scroll below us right now, if you pledge at $30 or more per month, you get your name in GameFace. It rolls across the bottom of the screen at least a couple times every episode. We love those people very much. They are really the people who are making sure that GameFace keeps happening. So if you really love the show and you really want to show it, give us that big $30 pledge and you'll see your name rolling along the bottom of the screen on GameFace. Next week, don't forget, we'll have Hellblade 2, a review of that. Things are going to start picking up. The end of May is actually really awesome. There are tons of great games coming out here over the next couple of weeks. I have to manage my time a little bit to make sure we can get them all into the show. So remember that. What else? I think that's it. Yeah. Again, we're here every Tuesday at twitch.tv/SIFTD at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget it. We'll be back next week. We'll have some big reviews for you guys. Have yourselves an awesome week. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.